Franklin County Board of County Commissioners 9th session. Commissioner Jones, would you lead us in prayer and pledge, please, sir?
Yes, sir. Heavenly Father, we thank you today for this day you've given to us. Thank you for each and every one in this room, all that are watching or listening today. Thank you for the ability to do what needs to be done today. We ask you to give us understanding and discretion to go with the knowledge that we have. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning.
Good morning. Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'd like to just make one quick statement. So I just want to make sure everyone knows, I moved the location, well, no, I added a new location for the information for the call-in for all meetings now, so it won't necessarily have to be tagged to any specific agenda. It's on the agenda page, and so I just, it's a change, and I let the public know when we make that type of change. We'll have it in all agendas as usual. I'll try my best to, but it's now the header page. As you open the agenda page, all the information is right there. Okay, so I just want to let the public know that's one additional spot they can go for the information that they need to be able to call in or to view the meeting.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Anything else? Next on the agenda will be approval of the minutes.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Massa, second by Commissioner Jones. Minutes will be for June the 16th, 2020. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimous. Next on the agenda will be payments of the county bill.
So move. Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Burt, second by Commissioner Perry. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimous. Next on the agenda will be award and recognition, resolution of appreciation for Ms. Patty Collins. You come up, please, to the podium.
Commissioner, as Pat approaches the podium, we all know that Pat has done a yeoman's job, or beyond that, on the census. I don't think, as much as some people look at the numbers and say they're low, I don't think they'll be where they are right now without Pat being in charge and just trying her best, probably going overboard sometimes in her, as her husband might say, but trying her best to make sure we do as well as we could do, you know, as best as we can, facing this pandemic, facing the lack of internet access across the county, which is a very big problem that we have, a problem that most people don't realize, but Pat figured that out right away. And so, you know, I just want this opportunity to thank her for all she's done. You know, finally she said, okay, Michael, I need a breather, and her grandkids were here, so I allowed her to take a breather. No, I'm just kidding, Pat. You know, but she's worked real hard. And Courtney herself wanted to write and say this resolution here personally, because Courtney and Pat has worked together for a long time. Courtney?
Hi, Pat. Hey, Courtney.
So the resolution reads as this. Whereas the Franklin County Board of County Commissioners appointed Pat O'Connell as chair for the Franklin County Complete Count Committee, for which she served with great professionalism, dedication, and distinction. Whereas Pat O'Connell recruited members of the community to create the Franklin County Complete Counts Committee, and with her great leadership established a variety of outreach materials and resources for the Franklin County CCC. Pat O'Connell graciously volunteered her time and expertise to the Franklin County CCC, providing invaluable insights, perspective, and guidance throughout her term as chair. She's faced and overcame many obstacles, such as lack of resources and setbacks due to a global pandemic. Her determination and consistency resulted in her raising $7,500 for the outreach efforts and $4,500 grants from the National League of Cities. So let it be resolved that the Franklin County Board of County Commissioners and the Franklin County CCC hereby adopts this resolution of appreciation as an expression of thanks and gratitude for Pat O'Connell for going above and beyond the call of duty in her efforts in making sure Franklin County counts for the United States 2020 Census.
Commissioners. Thank you, staff. I appreciate it. And back in the fall, when things come back, you can come back to me. But I'll work for her, not as a chair.
You've done a good job, Ms.
Pat,
Pat.
you've
We
done a very
appreciate
good job, Pat. I want to let you know, Courtney sent out a email blast yesterday to the, all the members of the Census Committee, and so they're at home clapping for you right now.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Pat, I'd just like to inject a very personal word to just appreciate what a role model you have been to me. When I first came on commission, how you basically took me under your wing, and you and Mike just showed me around and gave me a lot of good orientation in it. As I see it, you are such an individual who is out of the way of themselves. And I just see how special it is that you see working for an entity perhaps greater than ourselves and giving yourself to us, and we appreciate you very much.
What would the number they come up with, you know?
I'm sorry, sir.
What would the number the people that signed up was?
We're at,
Oh,
where's Courtney? What is the percentage we're at right now? No, they do more by percentage than actual numbers.
We're closer to 50% than we were before, and the numbers are still coming in, so we're getting there.
Good.
That's good. That's
Yep.
real good.
yeah.
I don't think we've been that high in a long time.
Yes.
Been a while.
And before Pat goes and we move on, Commissioner, if you want to say something, because I was going to say, Courtney is also, Pat, if you don't mind, you can stand up. We're going to announce the winners of the gift cards of that program that you had countywide, but if, you can go ahead and we'll
Okay.
do it afterwards.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Pat, for everything that you've done. It's not always easy trying to get people together, especially when they're volunteers. So the fact that you were able to take that on says a lot about you, your personality, your determination. And I think we're going to wind up with a higher census count than we've had in a long time because of those efforts. And thank you very much.
Very much.
Okay. We did a contest, thanks to Pat O'Connell, we did a contest for the 22 census between May 1st and July 1st. Contestants had to email the proof of the completed 22 census, their contact information, and their district or name of their district's county commissioner to win a $25 gift card. There are 5 winners chosen from each district. So the winners, I told them to tune in today so they can hear their names, but their gift card and also a nice census goodie bag will be sent to them with their $25 gift card. District 1's winner is Tom Luridge. District 2 winner is Joan Matei. District 3 winner is Ajay Patel. District 4 winner is Courtney Giddens. And District 5 winner is Jenny Myrick.
All right.
Yeah, it's great.
Good job, and once again, Pat, thank you. And one more time, how much money did she fundraise? So it's you got 45.
4,500 and
12,000.
7,000.
12,000.
wait,
That's
She
12,000.
I didn't even put you in the spot like that. I'm sorry.
7,500 in outreach efforts, and then $4,500 grant from the National League of Cities.
That's good.
So I got another project I'll be talking to you about here by the end of this meeting, but Commissioner Parrish inspired idea project, but we'll talk about that a little later. But thank you so much, Pat, for everything you've done. Thank you, Courtney.
Okay. Y'all good. Moving on with public comments.
Well, Commissioner, I'll tell you this is first time ever, I think. We've had just 2 listeners on the phone, so I'm just gonna go ahead and ask them directly if they have any public comment. I guess more people are using the live stream now than only the ones that want to do public comment are calling in. So, wireless caller, 850-544-1135, 850-441. I'm sorry, 850-544-1135. I've unmuted your call. Would you like to address the Board of County Commissioners? again. Maybe if your phone might be muted, you might mute yourself, maybe not. All right, one more time. Telephone number 850-544-1135. Do you want to address the Board of County Commissioners? Okay, I'll move on to the second caller, which is 850-227-8366. 850-227-8366. Good morning. Would you like to address the Board of County Commissioners?
Hey, Michael, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can.
Hey, it's Sarah Hines. I was calling in just to report out today from the Health Department.
Oh, okay. Well, Commissioners, well, hold 1 second, Sarah. There are no other callers on the line. So if we could close public comments and just go straight to Sarah. Let her, she couldn't be here today because of her schedule in person, so I asked her to call in this morning. So again, there are no other callers on the line for public comments, Commissioner.
Okay, I'm gonna call it for one more time. Public comments. Next on the agenda will be,
Well, if we could we go to take
Yeah.
Sarah, and she's
I'm gonna
further
put her
down
on.
in the agenda, and then we'll come back in. We'll even
yeah,
come
she
back to.
on the line now, right?
Yes, she's on the line right now. If anyone
Okay.
else pops in for public comments, I'll let you know, sir, okay?
Okay, since next on the agenda will be, we're gonna skip and go to Miss Sarah Hines since she already on the line.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
All right, Sarah, good morning. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning, Commissioners. I'm sorry I couldn't be there this morning, but I just wanted to provide you with a brief update of what's going on around the state and within Franklin related to COVID-19 response. You know, we're still in phase 2 of the governor's reopening plan with 2 more phases after this. And yes, we are seeing more cases, and this is, you know, happening across the state. And we said we'd see more cases in Franklin, but we also said we'd channel any fear into action. So remember that the goal was to slow the spread over time, which unfortunately does mean that the ordeal stretches out longer than we all want to encounter in a pandemic. But this is necessary in order to maintain our medical capacity for anyone needing medical care and not create that hospital surge. So our priority remains the same, to protect the most vulnerable populations. The state has tested just, you know, over 10% of the population by now. And in the beginning, many of the cases were from the 60-year-old plus range, and now the age range has shifted, as you can see, to people in their 20s and 30s testing positive, and you know, many asymptomatic. So we saw a peak in hospitalizations for cough associated admissions or visits related to fever, shortness of breath around the mid to late March timeframe. And since then, it's gone down, and the graphs using the hospital data are showing just a slow rise. So the peak really happened around the mid to late March timeframe for the hospitalizations. The positivity percentage over the last 2 weeks has ranged anywhere from 10 to 16%. So we're trying to see when that's going to be stabling out. Franklin, of course, you know, we're at that 1% mark. These are the folks who have tested positive for the first time. So we're still the lowest case count in the state, but that doesn't mean that we let our guard down. You know, it's still important to follow the guidance from the CDC. And, you know, for visitors, please, you know, do not wait to get tested on your way out of our county. Get tested before you arrive, excuse me, if you think you've been exposed, and then wait for those results before you come to our county. And also, you know, if you're coming from another county just to get tested here, please note that your results will get sent back to your county's health department for follow-up and contact tracing. So if you're just coming here to get tested, you might as well just get tested in your own county. And for local residents, you know, the CDC still recommends that you maintain social distancing, you wear that mask in public, you know, stay home, of course, if you're not feeling well, because, you know, exposure can happen at any time. And if you're worried about, you know, asymptomatic people spreading the virus and not knowing who has it, you know, following the CDC guidance really is the best way to go. So, again, if you think you've been exposed and were a close contact to an identified positive case, and close contact, when we say that, we mean, you know, less than 6 feet and 15 minutes or more. The recommendation is to quarantine for 14 days. And just because you get a negative test within that time frame doesn't mean you're free to leave your home. We really want you to, it can take up to 14 days to become infected with COVID-19. So we really want you to quarantine for that 14-day time span. And we are beginning to see more cases popping up when we test businesses and the employees. And so far, the managers and the business owners that we've spoken to have responded very promptly to protect their staff, their customers, and they're following the CDC guidance for cleaning, as well as ensuring, staff that were, tested positive are isolated at home. So far in Franklin, we've seen 15 positive cases. That's still the same today. I just got the update. 7 of those are no longer required to isolate. We'll continue to see more cases. We are continuing to test. And the numbers that you see on our dashboard are unduplicated tests. So right now it's showing, I think it's 1,327 tests. And so that's really the main update that I have for now. And if you have any questions, I'm here.
I got one. If a person tests positive, and they don't quarantine or admit they steady going out, what y'all got set up for that?
So you understand that question? So if someone tests positive, but still they're out in the community, they refuse to quarantine, at that point, whose enforcement issue is it? The health department, the sheriff? How does that work?
Okay, can you hear me?
Now I can. We couldn't hear you before.
Okay. So I'm sitting here with our one of our registered nurses, Emerald Larkin, and I'm trying to hear the question. So the question was, if somebody has tested positive, they're required to isolate in their home, right? And
right.
if they're not isolating, what's the protocol in place?
That's the question.
That's the question. What if they just steady going out and in?
So what we provide to individuals is a voluntary agreement for isolation at home, and it doesn't mean that they opt in to stay at home. We are asking them to stay at home for.
It depends on if they develop symptoms, when those symptoms are, when their date of tests were, and if they're recovered. It does not mean that in 10 days, it's not a blanket statement to say that in 10 days, everyone is going to be recovered. But for the most part, 10 days since your symptom onset and fever-free, then that typically means that you're okay to go. But it is not an end-all. It does not say that you can go right back to work. It doesn't say any of that. That is dependent upon employers, and it also depends on the patient's condition. Mm-hmm. It is individualized for each person. So, I mean, it definitely does help to have a good rapport with your community, and we feel like we do have that. I feel like people trust, our opinion and our expertise on the matter, and for the most part, I feel like we've had lots of people
in compliance. Yeah, we do get a lot of reports of people that they've seen who they believe were positive and they're out and about, and it's probably likely that they're no longer required to isolate, and that tends to keep happening with us. And so sometimes to help employers or the individual, we have them sign this agreement. And it just kind of is a partnership in place, like Emerald was saying, that they are agreeing to isolate. Now, if in the event somebody isn't in compliance, there is something that's called an involuntary order, but we have not had to use one of those. So that's a good thing.
Okay.
I had a question, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Sarah, what is the difference between this COVID virus and the common seasonal flu?
Hey, this is Emerald. I'll answer that. It's a different virus. That's pretty much, it's a different virus. There are many multitudes of things that it does. Some are very mild, which is thankfully we've seen in pretty much most of our counties, in Franklin and in Gulf. However, it can turn, just like with the seasonal flu virus. We do see deaths related to flu, and we see lots of people that just got wiped out for about a week and they're fine. So, I mean, to simplify it, it's a different virus. It has different things that are going on. So.
Anybody else got any questions for?
I do if the commissioners don't. Ladies, so my question is here, so there's this thing circulating, I saw it yesterday on social media where they say the health department sent out information and Franklin and Gulf County are now hot spots in the state. Is that fake? Is that true? Is there some justification for that?
That's not true. Who designated it a hot spot? Where are you getting that information from?
Okay. You're asking me? No, I saw it on social media and they said the source of information came from the health department. I was like, I don't know about that one. And so.
Yeah, no. Well, you know, we're responsible for disseminating information, and we haven't disseminated anything that spoke about a hot spot in our community.
Okay.
You know, we try to share our case counts every morning with the commissioners, and right now our positivity is still low, and in Franklin in particular, it's 1%. Mm-hmm.
Good. I just wanted you guys to basically state that for the public, more so for anybody else, that what they're seeing there is not true information or accurate, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, we try to address a lot of social media rumors. Most of the time, somebody from the health department is copied on those, or they call in to ask questions, and I really appreciate the public's response to that. So if you do hear something, you're not quite sure, and you have questions about it, that's what we're here for, to help answer those questions with credible information. So we do appreciate reaching out to us and calling us, and we're available to help you walk through any type of COVID questions that you may have.
All right. That's it for me, Commissioner.
Anybody else? Okay, we thank you for the update, Ms. Sarah.
All right, Sarah, thank you all so much for calling in.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye.
All right, good.
And Commissioner, since then, no one else has called in for public comment, so I think we can move on now.
Okay, we live streaming, right?
Yes, we are live streaming.
Okay, next on the agenda will be Department Director Report. Superintendent of Public Works, Mr. Howard Neighbors. Come on now.
Good morning, Commissioners. How y'all doing?
Good morning.
We still continue on cutting grass and weed eating, ditching, grading roads, and we starting in Lanark this morning. Then we're gonna hit Alligator Point. I know some places that grow back up knee high. We just cut a week and a half ago, so we're just gonna make a pass through the county like we've always done and start back over. And I got a couple more items also. I got an inmate supervisor which is retired. Turned his 2 weeks resignation in on health issues. So I'd like to ask for the board for approval on re-advertising for that position.
So moved.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner. Second by Commissioner Parrish. It was first by Commissioner Master. All right. Any discussion on this? You gonna do it in-house and out-house at the same time?
No, sir. We're gonna do 2 weeks in-house and 2 weeks out, so.
Okay.
I hate we losing him. I know he's sick.
Ricky's a good person. He sure
He's
is. So
he's been with the county a long time.
he sure has.
Been dedicated for the county.
Yes, sir. Been a good worker, never caused no trouble. I mean,
If you had every worker like Mr. Rickard, you wouldn't have no problem.
sure, exactly right.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimous. And tell him, before he goes, tell him thank you for his service for the county
Yes, sir.
today.
I'll do it.
I mean, it's 2 weeks early, but we
Yeah,
appreciate.
he turned all his uniforms, everything in, so he's pretty well done, so.
Okay.
But I will tell him that,
Tell him we appreciate everything he's done and thank you for his service to the county.
and then I also got, which we talked to Miss Aaron about, for a new crew cab F-154 pickup truck, which will be used for inmate crews and stuff. We added another inmate crew, which he started yesterday for training. So hopefully when they let them back out, I have 6 crews going instead of 5.
Okay, they still got the inmates in?
Yes, sir, they still no answer. So, I think he's still letting forestry and parks and recs crew out, but no road department crew.
Okay.
So you want to purchase a 2024 F-150 4x crew truck?
Yes, sir.
You got the money in your budget?
Yes, sir, I've talked to
Okay.
Aaron, I worked with Aaron.
So
Ms. Aaron about.
Second.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Massa and a second by Commissioner Burt. Any discussion on that? Got the money, you going through that shaft thing?
Sir?
Y'all gonna get it through the shaft thing?
Yeah,
Shaft
yeah,
box?
through the state bid stuff, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, and Mr. Noah, the way the road department was able to fund the truck is because he had, 2 vacancies that took, several months to fill. It was probably about 4 months of.
4 months, yeah.
Of vacancies in between with people, leaving. So, with the 2 vacancies, he had enough to actually fund the inmate truck, so it was a good cost savings there.
Yeah, he's
Thank you.
needing a truck bad.
Yeah.
I wish we could replace all of them big trucks and little trucks and save a lot of wear and tear.
Yeah, you're exactly right. But they happen during a storm or something, they
It just-
good, but other than that, and a lot cheaper, the regular Ford pickup trucks, a lot cheaper in a year's time just on the fuel that you save. So
Yeah, 2 trips back and forth to the prison
Yes, sir.
every day.
with that diesel, and then you got that smog control pump stuff I got on them too that tears up about every 3 years, which costs about $5,000 or $6,000 on the fix. So that new stuff they put on your diesels. So,
Is that motion to approve the purchase and to approve this line
I
item
was-
budget amendment?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask them to amend their motion to approve, with it, if you go to the page 2, the very top, there's, some line item budgets, in order to him to move that money, so he can purchase the trucks, we will need, clerk's office will need you guys to approve both on the same motion, the purchase of this truck and the line item budget. So you and Commissioner Bolt have to amend your motion and your second to
Amend the
include the
motion.
line item budget.
So amend.
The first been amended and the second been amended to move the money so they can get the truck. All right, y'all ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That pass unanimous.
and that's all I got.
Mr. Chairman, can we address the 8 Mile and 10 Mile Road, situation real quick?
Sure.
Would you tell them what you told me about the no trespassing signs and things?
Yeah, I
that you
talked, yes, sir, I talked to Desert Ray Cattle, and, they said that they the one put the signs up. And they said on account of people dumping garbage in there, and like I told him, I said, no, sir, we pick all that garbage up. I said, the county been maintaining that road for probably 40 years or longer. And he said, well, we just put the no trespassing sign to try to keep people out of there for now. So, and I just left it at that, so.
Is that a private road or
No,
public?
sir, I checked with Mr. Howard. He says the county's been maintaining those roads for decades. I think he says he knows for 40 years at least.
Yes, sir.
So that make
and
it our
there's-
road, huh?
There's street signs down there. Anyway, I just want the board to know that I have sent a letter to the landowner telling them they're public roads and asking them to voluntarily take down their no trespassing signs. The implication being if they don't do it voluntarily, then we'll go take them down. And the letter went out, I don't know, 10 days ago, something like that.
So,
I'll be glad to take care of it this morning. I sure pull pole and all up for you.
I understand. Let's give them a reasonable chance to do the right thing first.
Yes, sir. And that's the only 2 access roads that we got left going to the beach, so, in that area.
okay, how much time you think we need to give?
I think I told them in the letter, I'll check, but just give them, 30 days or less, and if they haven't done it by then, we'll just go pull it up.
Okay,
In fact, with that 10 Mile Road, somebody's already torn down, the poles are there, but the no trespassing signs have already been torn down. So you have poles, but no trespassing signs at 10 Mile, and then at 8 Mile, you've got the poles and the no trespassing signs that are up. And there is a bunch of garbage out there.
Yes, sir. I seen when somebody dumped back garbage there.
I know, they got like mattresses or foam or something.
But we maintain it about every 2 weeks. We police it up, clean it up, the garbage and stuff, and we cut it when we make a path through. So we got everything on record for years and years that, where we've been maintaining them 2 roads.
I figure we'll give them 30 days. If they haven't done it by then, we'll send them a letter that says we're taking the signs down and sorry you didn't choose to respond. Just want the
Okay.
board to know.
So we don't need no motion or nothing.
The letter's already been sent, I thought, under the authority of the county attorney, so I didn't think I needed board
No, I
action to
ain't
send
talking
the
about that,
letter.
I'm talking about motion for him to go out there.
Mr. Chair, if we can wait a little bit longer to do that, I think that I would have the authority as your attorney to make the legal decision based on the facts that Howard gives me, that it is a public road, and we have inherent authority to protect the public's access to a public road.
Okay,
But if y'all-
Mr. Chairman,
go ahead.
I have a comment on that. Buster, if you would, go out there and clean up the garbage,
Okay,
so the place is cleaned up the way we've always maintained it.
okay.
We'll give them a little time, as attorney spoke, and after that, we'll take action if they don't respond to his letter.
Okay, I'll take
But
care
I
of
would
it.
like to see it cleaned up,
Okay.
because if they go out there and take it up and there's still garbage everywhere, that, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So if we could do that between now and the next board meeting, get it cleaned up.
We
and
can do
we'll
that.
see what kind of reaction we get between now and the next board meeting.
I think there's a raise. They've been here for a few years, but this never come up until they started putting them little crab pot, them oyster things out here. So, once they started putting them out here, then all of a sudden they come up with no trespassing signs, putting them poles up. So I
You've got a
don't,
local contact for Deseret, don't you?
yeah, yeah.
Maybe check with him, see if he knows anything about the letter after this meeting.
Okay,
Been
I can do
called.
it. Okay.
And let him know you're going out there to get it
Okay.
cleaned back up, as we always have, and
Do we got signs out there saying no trash dumping?
8 Mile's got, they put 2 poles up at 8 Mile and 10 Mile. The 8 Mile still got the signs up posting no trespassing.
I ain't talking about, I'm talking about trash.
Yeah, the trash is at 8 Mile. Somebody went in there and dumped them. Looked like a
There's no
truckload
signs
of.
out there, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Well, let's put some signs up saying no trash dumping, you know,
Okay.
and then we'll not hit, see what that do. Get the trash up and.
Mr. Chairman, could I make a comment on that?
Everything else. Go ahead.
if you'd have some signs made, no dumping of garbage,
Okay,
as we try to keep these roads open to the public.
okay.
Maybe that would encourage people, you know, not dump any more trash there if they want to keep the road open where they can drive down and mullet fish or see the bay or whatever they might want to do on a public road. We need to restrict the amount of garbage being dumped down there.
Yeah, which it does look bad when, you know, people dump all that stuff.
I know it costs us a little money to put all that on a sign, but I think it'd be the appropriate thing to do.
Well,
Making the public aware that we're trying to keep these roads open for them and we need to curtail the dumping of garbage out there.
Okay,
That's the only 2 roads y'all got left out here to fish on, ain't it?
that's it, 8 Mile and 10 Mile, on the 2 roads left. A lot of tourists go to them beaches right there too, and local. I've had people from Weewall, from St. Joe, and Panama, that's called about it, so,
Well, I know everybody's got calls on it. It's-
yeah.
And it'll help, cause they're gonna be doing that oyster leasing down on that end, and some of them might be using that
Exactly.
to go to the lease, to their leases, so want them to know they got to do their part by helping clean up.
Yes, sir.
It don't look good for them to just throw their trash right on the ground. I mean, let's get real. They got to do their part too.
And the stop sign at 10 miles missing, just got a pole there.
They steal it. They steal the sign, we put glue and stuff on it where they can't take the 8 Mile and 10 Mile is mainly what they want. If they can't get that off, they just take the whole pole sign off with them, so.
But as public
But-
roads, we still need to mark.
Yeah, we'll put it up.
Okay. All right, anybody else got anything on that, on this issue?
Not that issue, but I do have something for Howard when you guys get through, before he walks away.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, Commissioners, page 6, item 4, my report. This is about the Road Department Administrative Building. On Tuesday, May 19th, bids were opened for the Road Department Administrative Building. The bids came in as follows: Duncan Home Construction, $416,239.13. Oliver Sperry Renovations, $393,508. Storm Construction Incorporated, $321,465. And Certus Builders at $364,168. On Thursday, June 18th, the review committee met as a competitive price-based bid. The lowest bidder the lowest bidder, Storm Construction, was confirmed to be the lowest responsive and responsible bidder and met all of the bid specifications. Franklin County does not have any sort of local preference bid policy in place, and this was a price-based solicitation pursuant to bid practices and Florida law, as confirmed by County Attorney Attorney Michael Schuler. Storm Construction is the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. I'm requesting board action to award the bid to the lowest qualified bidder, Storm Construction. The county also has the right to reject all bids, rebid, or elect not to proceed with its project at this time.
Where they from?
The list, I thought it had I think they had a Carabel address. Correct me if I'm wrong.
They did have a Carabel address, but then also a Georgia address as well.
Well, pleasure to board.
I have a question real quick.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman. Is the money available for this particular bid amount?
It is, Commissioner. The road department building, we had $298,000 budgeted. The road department has received $200,000 in unanticipated FEMA reimbursements for basically equipment hours and then also materials reimbursements from Hurricane Michael. Now, one thing that we are doing is we are going to essentially use that additional $20,000 that's needed for the new building project. However, the other $180,000 remaining of the FEMA funds, we're going to wait and see how it works out with the gas tax proceeds with the coronavirus and the travel restrictions, because I had anticipated about $160,000 could be our worst case scenario with the closures. I don't think it's going to be that bad, but that's going to be how we actually make it through, if need be.
I'm gonna make a motion to accept the bid and proceed.
Second.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Burke. Any more discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimous.
That's a good thing.
Now, on the next thing, since we got that passed, I mean, they said we didn't have a local bid. I mean, they said we didn't have a local bid policy. I'd like to see somebody make a motion, we get a local bid policy in here, because building stuff like that, we need to consider the locals first, if any way possible.
I make a motion to get a local bid set up for it.
I got a motion on the floor by
Second.
Commissioner Massey, second by Commissioner Jones. I mean, you know, I thought it was one set up, slipped by me. But stuff like that, we the county, and people living in the county can do the work. We'll try to, get under the preference even if they hire and they can, I guess we can set it up where if they can match what the low bid, they can get a chance to do it.
Most counties, I think, around us, and I'll double check and ask Attorney Schuler. Yes, sir, you're correct, Commissioner. Most counties do a 10% difference,
Yeah.
so they allow local bid, that match you're talking about would be about 10%. However, I will tell the board, or inform the board, that beware that this will depend on the funding sources that we use to do a project. Because I could walk right in there to Mark right now and he's gonna tell me, the FDOT is gonna tell you, no, that won't work. I'm sure I could turn to Pam and she could tell me a bunch of cases where they won't allow it. So understand that if we do this policy, it'll be based on using local funds, unrestricted funds that we can use.
I guess
said it
without,
correctly.
oh, you talking about with like FEMA and?
Yeah, so certain FDOT projects, scrap, that type of, we won't be able to apply our local bid policy. So I think it's, I know the board realizes this, I'm more saying this for the public education. Know that the local bid policy, will be for certain funds and certain projects. Just be clear, it won't be a blanket thing overall for every project the county does.
And actually, that would be mentioned on the bid solicitation too, if something was eligible for the
Yes,
local preference
there we
policy.
go.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we'll do.
Yeah.
So they'll know up front. I'm sorry, sir.
If they think, put in change orders or anything, couldn't they go over their bid amount they bidded, Ms. Aaron?
That would have to be approved by the board.
Okay?
Yeah.
What I'm saying, I don't want them to come back and throw 30 or 40, 50 more $1,000 gotta happen and overbid the guy local that put in his bid.
It would have to be for something extraordinary above and beyond what was actually mentioned in the bid specifications.
But you, Commissioner Massey, you're right, and that's a trick of years past where somebody would come in a low bid and then change order the project, so it ends up being almost the highest bid for the cost of the
It's
project.
happened a
But there's a
couple
lot
times
of,
since I've been sitting here.
Yeah.
It's come in and went over the local bidder.
yeah, but there are a lot of rules now in place too, and that's why all change orders come to this board for your approval. And if you don't think it's right or you don't want to do it, you don't.
Go ahead.
Michael, also, once the bids are submitted, then you're not allowed to come back in and lower your bid to meet the lowest bid. Now, you can't,
Oh, no.
whatever your bid is, if you go with a 10% and it's allowed under certain streams of money that we're using, you cannot come in after the bids are submitted and say, well, I can do it, you know, because the highest bid was almost $100,000 more, even though they were local. We can't allow, once the bids are opened in public, to have them come back and whoever the local bidder is to drop their price and all of that.
Oh, you're correct, sir.
Because that's unfair to the group of bidders that you've got coming. And another concern is you may not have people from out of town come in and bid if you're gonna make this local bid policy.
That's right.
So you may lower the amount of people that even bid for a policy in the county. So that's something else you have to take into consideration when we drafting this local bid preference.
Okay.
As to the amount of people that's gonna come in and bid on a project such as the building over at the road camp, because, well, they're gonna give it to the local person anyway, so there ain't no sense us bidding.
Yeah.
Which will in turn lead to higher prices. I just want the board to kind of think about it from that perspective. You gotta look at it from all different angles to make sure we're doing the right thing at the right time.
Okay, I got it. So it narrows the field and then it reduces competition, which in fact could drive up the price. I
You
follow
said we couldn't use the other money if we done it this way. We'd have to use our own funds, right?
That's
In
correct.
some cases.
As far as having a local preference bid policy, it would have to be projects that were specifically county funded and not
Yeah.
anything that was funded by state or federal grants.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I wonder also, relative to storm construction that we awarded this today, could we encourage them to use local talent and local labor and help when at all possible for this particular project?
We could, and we do.
We can act.
We do, do we have
Yeah.
that as part of the understanding in their bid process? And so-
I mean, I think there's a statement, something about using local subs
I believe
as
there
much
was
as
a
possible.
statement on his bid that he submitted.
Yes, sir.
Is there?
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
any more discussion on this? Y'all ready to vote? All in favor? All opposed? That passed unanimous. We'll see how it turn out. We'll see.
We got the clay and all hauled in, so last week it rained, it's been nasty, so we picked to start trying to put the pad and get everything leveled up, so. That way when they get ready, they can start building.
Okay.
So,
Gotta wait till your clay dry out, though.
yeah, it's been wet, a lot of rain, so.
That's gonna take a little while.
Mr. Chairman, on the local bid preference ordinance, I will get that drafted and bring it back to the board for your consideration as a draft before we schedule a public hearing. We don't do very many locally funded projects, so I'm not going to have this back to you at your next meeting, but we'll get it back to the board in due course unless you give me different instructions.
Okay. Well, all I was trying to do was, we ain't situating in bad, it's bad time now. I was just trying to help the
Oh, absolutely.
people in local,
Yeah.
keep working. But I understand. Yes, sir, we'll do that.
Howard, I want to thank you for what you've done in my district.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Anybody got it? You got some more, Mr. Ives?
No, sir, that's all I've got.
Anybody got anything else for? Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Howard.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda will be solid waste director. Well, that's Mr. Abbott. Yeah, he taking place for funding.
Good morning, how y'all doing?
Good
Morning, sir.
Good morning.
All right. Ronald's out, he really didn't have a whole bunch, but he did have a request for the board. It's an equal shot program that, how it read, so in the past, the board had contributed to the basketball youth program of Franklin County, and the equal shot program is offering a free of charge program for at the Matchbox, and it's asking for board to donate $2,500 to help keep it free for the county youth.
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Massey, second by Commissioner Jones. Yeah, I see them kids be out there. That's out to the Matchbox.
At the Matchbox, yes.
Yeah, they doing a good job.
Okay. That's all he had for the board today.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimously.
Thank you for your work, Alan.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Albert, y'all check with that traveling ball team. They've been winning.
Well, I know it's we got two girls softball teams actually going to the state this year. And,
You're talking about
This-
Sandlot?
No, the boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Sandlot travel team.
Yeah,
Travel.
I guess they've been winning, and they asking for a little help them line the cooler so they can practice.
okay.
Just get with the coach and see what he talking about, please.
Okay, I'll do that.
Who's going to state this week, Albert, down at Sanibel or whatever?
I'm not sure who's going. I know it's two. We got two girls softball teams, and I think it's the Ponytails, and I'm not sure what the other one is.
The Bellevue.
The
They're down
Bells.
at Bellevue, ain't
Yes.
it? Okay.
But y'all had already cut it and everything, but
Okay, so
the field was cut and everything, but he said he just needed it line, some help with it, I guess.
Okay, is it the big?
Basically,
Is
I
it
don't
the big
know.
field? Which field is he talking about?
He was talking about one of them out there, wherever they practice out there, done it,
Okay.
Wilson Park. I don't-
Okay, I'll get it taken care of.
Okay. I don't know which one is.
I'll find out. I'll take care of it.
Commissioners, before Albert walks away from the podium, if you go to page 7, item 6 in my report, county staff was contacted by Tillman Infrastructure representative to discuss possible site locations for a new cell tower in the area referred to as Greenpoint, and I'm hoping everybody knows where Greenpoint is. I'm sure one of the commissioners could fill it in if anybody doesn't know. One of these locations under consideration is the landfill, and the other is at the sheriff's department. I included 2 maps in your agenda package showing you where they're talking about. If the board has no objection to a tower in any of these locations, Tillman asks that the board approve and execute a non-binding business terms agreement for each of these locations. Tillman would make a decision on the best location and then contact the county to negotiate the principal terms and execute a lease. Attorney Schuler has reviewed both BTAs. So I'm asking for some discussion here about this and possible authorization of a chairman's signature on the business term agreements for one or both of the locations.
What is a sale tower?
Yes.
For sale?
Yes, Cellular Tower Company.
Mr. Chairman, just so the board knows, this company is not looking at just those 2 locations in that area. They're looking at multiple locations in addition to the 2 locations, one at the sheriff's department and one at the landfill. So it's not necessarily that they're going to pick, one of our 2 spots. They're looking at other locations as well.
Well, do they got they should help pick up on 65?
I'm sorry, sir?
They should
They
help.
should help put the reception up on 65, better reception.
Maybe
I
a
mean, I
little.
always lose, some people
A
lose.
little, I don't know how far up 65 it'll take us, Commissioner. 65 needs a
Yeah,
tower
that
on
one.
65, I'm sorry.
Is this 5G tower?
He didn't say. He wasn't specific about what repeaters will be in the tower and what type of service will be in the tower. A couple of things, I want to make sure it's clear that if they choose one of these 2 locations, these are both county property, so the agreement would be with the county. I didn't want anybody to think that maybe there'll be agreement with the sheriff's department. No, that's county property. So it'll be on both locations are county locations. My question to the sheriff was, and I sent it to him, I think, a couple of weeks and again yesterday, wanted to make sure a tower there, he didn't think it would be a security risk for the jail. I wanted to make sure that from him. And then from Fonda, I wanted to make sure that DEP wouldn't have an issue with putting a tower that close to the landfill. So that's the two things I had sent him for to check on, but we're still talking.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Also, I've talked to the sheriff and Ms. Morone about this yesterday, is that we need to relocate possibly the fire repeater
Yes.
that's on the tower at the sheriff's department. Right now, it's hardwired into the new console we just bought. And if lightning hits that tower again, it's gonna blow up our new board that we just purchased, the county just purchased for the jail, which is our 911 system, and all that's tied together. So in our negotiations, we need to see if Tillman will allow us to relocate the fire repeater to this tower that they're proposing to build,
Okay.
and get it off that tower at the sheriff's department, and we can take that tower down.
Yes.
Okay.
Because every time lightning hits that tower, it seems to mess up that $500,000 console we just bought.
Yep.
So that's another issue that I would like to direct the attorney to when he's in discussions with them, to see if we cannot, and especially if they just move it to the landfill, it doesn't affect where the repeater is in that general location, but it gets it off that tower at the sheriff's department where that tower can come down, because the sheriff does not use the tower. But the repeater on top is now hardwired into our new console that we purchased a year and a half ago, something like that. So we need to get rid of that tower and that hardwire going into that console, so that when lightning hits, we don't have that same continuous disruption of service. Because if it blows that console up, you lose your 911 contact. I mean, you're pretty much down for then. So we need to get rid of that. So I would like to ask whoever's negotiating with Tillman to throw that out there if they're within a certain parameter of where we're currently at. I think that's the issue that the fire chief in East Point had, is they didn't want to move that repeater too much. But if it's in that general location, I think it's something we should try to negotiate and move that, and thereby allow us to take that tower down at the sheriff's department.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you a question. That tower, is it tall enough for TV so they can make meter come go down?
I don't know, and I'll ask, but I mean,
They need to put where people can get TV reception and put some, some people we don't have no control. They went by the state. So if you got a certain tower with a TV thing on it, you got to use them. We need to put one of them in there too, so they don't want to do right.
okay.
They know how to go to the state, we know how to go to the tower.
All right, sir.
That's the way I see it.
Mr. Chairman, also, it's been my experience that these tower leases might go 20, 30, or 40 years once they're set up, so it's a pretty permanent structure.
Okay, now, we ain't got to do no motion.
Yeah, I do. I need a motion to authorize you to sign those agreements so that those locations will be considered. Without those agreements, they will not consider those locations when they're doing their final review.
Pleasure to vote.
So moved.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Massey. And I got both of y'all said it at the same time. Second by Commissioner Burke.
Sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimous.
That's all I have, sir.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Go ahead.
before we leave this, I just want to clarify too. There was discussion, while we're having discussion, I don't want to stop what we're talking about cell reception up 65. I've been talking with Mr. Walter Armstead. If the board remembers, he come and got an agreement to put up a cell tower, and he actually talked to me just this last week and said that the people he's trying to work with called him back and said, look, COVID kind of held us up. We're still planning on doing the tower, so there will be a cell tower going up 65. It's just been delayed.
Okay.
Excellent.
Maybe that'll help.
Yeah. I know people been saying they lose reception when they
Yeah.
do it.
Oh, yes, you do.
Okay, Mr. Abbott,
All right.
we'll see you on your next trip in.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Y'all keep up the good work. Okay, next on the agenda will be Emergency Management Director, Ms. Pam Bonilla.
Good morning, Commissioners. I have several action items this morning. First action item is requesting the board's approval and signing of the following extensions. First one being Emergency Management Performance Grant Extension Modification Number 1. And then, I need to approve this first before I move on?
Are they all the same subject matter or different subject matter?
Different subject matters. They're, I mean, they're
Motion for
extensions.
subject.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second one being emergency.
minute. We have to
Oh,
vote.
sorry.
Wait a minute. How many you got?
Just
Oh,
one.
I know you're gonna do them one by one.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Burke. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That pass unanimous.
Second one being the Hurricane Loss Mitigation Program Extension.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by two Commissioner Master and Jones. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That pass unanimous.
Second, request the board's approval and signing of the EOC design contract with Dewberry.
So moved.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Master,
Second.
second by Commissioner Parrish. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That pass unanimous.
Third one, requesting the board's approval and signing of the interlocal agreement with Franklin County School Board for transporting our transportation disadvantage during a storm out of the county when we evacuate.
So moved.
Motion on the floor by Commissioner Master, second by Commissioner Jones. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Well, just, that pass unanimous. I need a question on that. Now, this for disadvantage to that ticket. What if somebody had a COVID and they disadvantage? What they,
We'll have to haul them separate.
but this to take care of that.
This is for the people that do not have a way out of this county that do not have COVID. When we have someone that has COVID, then we will contact the state and have them come move them.
Okay. As long as it's set up. All right. That's it?
That's it.
I have
I got,
I'm sorry, you go ahead.
go
sir.
ahead.
I have an item, but I'll let you guys go ahead first. I have two things, really. One, I was gonna ask Pam for an update. You know, there's been some emails, some requests about the status of Island View Park, where we are with that project, and the bathrooms on the East Point side of the fishing pier. I was gonna ask Pam, and they could wait till after you, to give us an update as to where the discussions with FEMA and everybody else are with those two projects. And this is more so for the public's information, to give them an update as to where they are, where we are with it. Because I keep hearing the county, the county, the county. And I think I know there's not an understanding of how the process actually works and how much we depend on the federal government to get these two areas repaired. I was gonna ask.
Islands View Park, that is still in FEMA's environmental historical review. We cannot do anything until they go through that and then obligate it. That's where it's sitting right now. The pier and the bathrooms, we sat down with the commissioner and Dewberry last week and discussed that. That's been obligated, so they will be moving forward on that project. They'll have to go out for bids because it is to fix it, but also do the mitigation on it.
Great.
Yeah, and that, if I may, Mr. Chairman, that also included, part of the weight was getting monies to mitigate it. So in future storms, maybe it'll still be there, because it's not just an issue with the walkway to the bathroom that's been destroyed. The issue is also that the parking lot itself has been undermined. It is missing dirt from under the parking area. So, yeah, that's a very good thing.
That was my question. Again, it needs to be an understanding, like Commissioner Jones has just explained, the mitigation would allow for less damage the next time we have a storm. That's the point of the mitigation, correct, Pam?
Yes,
And
yes.
so we wouldn't have to do as much repair, but getting mitigation from from FEMA,
Takes a while.
well, let's just look at Alligator Drive.
Yep.
That's a prime example. Do we have to go, I can pull out 5 pages of information from Mr. Pierce explaining the history of Alligator Drive. That's the prime example, Mr. Chairman. And I just wanted to clear that up for the public.
Okay.
Michael, I'd
Yes.
like to add one more thing. Patton Drive, the boat ramp there, the floating dock and all that, that has just been obligated, so I handed that off to Commissioner Jones this morning,
Yeah, I got
so
the
they can
papers
move
this morning.
forward with that.
Perfect.
Yep.
That's just been obligated.
Yes.
After how many years?
Been a while.
This is what was damaged during Michael, so.
Thank you.
Almost 2.
You do?
Yeah, I have an item for her, but I'll let you go ahead with yours.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so we're talking about my report. Item 5, Commissioners. Sorry, we keep flipping back and forth here, but it's the way we do things. So, item 5 on page 6. At your last meeting, I explained that the county was slated to receive $528,930, which was 25% of the total allocation of CARES Act funding for counties that fell below the 500,000 population threshold. Since your June 16th meeting, the county received the CARES Act agreement and was strongly urged by Florida Association of Counties and the Small County Coalition to execute this agreement and upload it into the state system as soon as possible, which was done last week. The next step is to create a spending plan. This spending plan would dictate how the county would spend the funds and would be submitted to the U.S. Treasury for a review. Ms. Tracy Busby of the Management Experts LLC, currently your emergency management consultant, is willing to create the spending plan and manage the program for the county. Her task order is attached to your agenda packet. Mr. Ben Chandler of the Apalachicola Regional Planning Council is willing to partner with Ms. Busby on the creation of the spending plan, but doesn't have the staff to manage the program for the county. The county's other option would be to advertise for a request for proposals. However, keep in mind that the total amount of CARES Act funding, which is approximately $2 million for us, must be spent by December 31st, 2020. Not just earmarked, it has to be spent, money out the door. What you don't spend goes back to the federal government, basically.
I guess my question would be, you got 2 people in, how much is the people who handling the money supposed to be getting paid out of this?
Okay.
What percentage?
5%.
Yes, I was gonna say, I think it's a 5% admin fee for Ms. Busby. Mr. Chandler is working off ARPC grant, and he said, if possible, he probably will not charge the county because he's already being paid to do that under the grant. And he was gonna check on that and verify that for me.
That'd be good, yeah.
Okay.
Now, the 5% that we pay, Commissioner, would come out of the CARES funding. So it's not like the county would have to pay that and not be reimbursed for that money.
No, but what I'm trying, I guess my question was, it was 2, we have to be paying, we need to know if we're paying 2 people.
Oh, yes, no. Mr. Chandler's, if he has to be paid, then I don't think, he said he'll leave it up to us, but he won't, he won't need to do it. He's pretty sure that he can work it off of this grant, and I'm sorry I forgot the name of the grant that he told me he's working under in order to do stuff like this. It's like a service he'll be offering to the county, basically, free of charge.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question on this before motion's made. When we were talking about the county receiving this money and then the two cities being able to apply to spend some of this money, and if it's spent wrong, the county's responsible. So my question to the attorney is can we have a separate agreement with the cities that if they applied for money and spend it in the wrong way, that they're responsible for paying this money back to the fund and not the county? It would be a separate agreement. Our agreement's with the state.
A callback on the callback. Okay,
Well, I mean, is that possible?
it's just a contract, if they'll agree to it.
Well, if they don't get no money. I
Yes.
mean, I don't want to be responsible for projects that we're not even involved in.
That's right.
And being responsible for having to pay this money back if the money's not spent the way they apply for it and they receive the money, but then the money's not spent the way it is. This board, this county is responsible for that. Is that that's what I
No, you're-
understood at the last board meeting.
You're right, absolutely right, sir.
So I want to know if there's a way that we can, if one of the two cities applied, don't matter which one, and they don't use the money the way they said they were going to use it, which complies with the criteria of this particular program, that they're responsible for paying this money back, not the county taxpayer.
If I may, Attorney Schuler, I won't pretend to be an attorney. I don't have a clue how to be an attorney. But I will say this, what I know from based on all these Zoom meetings that we've had about this, and there's been quite a few, the advice is basically that you do create some sort of agreement with your cities, you know? But understand, you gotta go after the cities for the money. The state or the federal, the state will not go after the cities. They're gonna come after us, and they say they will deduct from our revenue sharing, whatever that is. But it will be the county going after the city for the money if they mess up. So I just want that to be clear, because I don't want to give the impression that the state will go around us and say, okay, you have an agreement with the county, we're coming for the money. We will have to do battle to get the money from the city, but the state will take the money from us.
Well, that gets very complicated, because we set a budget. There is no monies here to pay for other people's mistakes, and then we got to figure out how to get the money. Do we cut Pam's, do we cut the clerk's budget? Do we cut other constitutional budgets to get this money to pay it back? I mean, these are things that we need to look at, and I'm looking at a way to protect ourselves,
Yes,
what I'm
sir.
asking for.
So am I.
Or is it the responsibility of this consultant to make sure, well, the consultant can make sure that what they're asking for complies with the protocols?
With the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But who's making sure that this money is going to that project and only that project and is being spent accordingly, because if they're not, then this county's responsible?
As far as I'm concerned, the consultant is. That's why we'll get a consultant. It'll be their job to follow, to get all the reports, and then turn it in to me and say, okay, I have checked all of this is what I found, I think they're in compliance, blah, blah, blah. So in other words, if the city decided to give, let's say, a business of some sort, a small business grant or something to that effect, whatever they call it, it is the consultant's responsibility to make sure that they didn't get any of that CARES Payroll Act money. Because if they do, they can't double dip. And it gets complicated, and that's why we need somebody that understands the rules, and basically somebody that understands the FEMA PA rules, because believe it or not, the same people at the federal government that are running the FEMA PA is the same people that's running this program. Believe it or not.
Mr. Chairman, Mike has attended all of those Zoom meetings. I really have not attended any of them. So to answer your question, Commissioner Parrish, unless there's a provision in this CARES Act that says we can't require the city to be financially responsible to us, then we can have a separate contract with them. But it would be a contract where the county would have to sue the city, potentially, theoretically, to get a callback to replace the callback that the state would take from us.
Okay, I just want to put that out there.
Yes, sir.
Man,
I'm not saying either city would do anything,
Of course not.
but I also don't want
That's right.
Yeah.
our board in our form of government to be responsible for all this stuff if we're not sitting there overseeing everything.
Sir.
All this
And
stuff is political. They ain't worrying about the city. They keeping stuff off them, pushing it to us.
I know, that's what I'm scared of. But anyway, and we've been through this ordeal with these consultants. It ain't my fault. I was working on the county's behalf. So the county is ultimately responsible, not me.
Yeah.
We've been down that road before too.
Yep.
And it,
we've been down that road before too, so I'm just putting this out there, I mean,
Yeah, and the county.
to let you know I'm concerned about it. I don't know if anybody else is, but I am.
Yeah.
I am.
I'm real concerned. because they
Yeah,
could've-
that's right, and the consultant's getting about $25,000 out of this.
Right.
5% of that 528,000,
Commissioners,
and that's coming forward.
I would suggest that this work just like any other FEMA project, that you don't cut the city a check, you cut them for what they've paid for. All the documentation has to come back to the county, because in order for you to show the state that you did this grant right, you have to have that documentation.
So you're
I
saying
would
do it
as a
on a
reimbursement,
reimbursement.
just like you would
Yeah.
any other FEMA project.
That's how it's supposed to be.
That's how it's
That's the way it's
supposed to
set
be
up
with
for the
CARES
most
Act.
part.
That's
Yeah.
the way it's set up.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be reimbursed.
So they have to
basis
expend the
only.
dollars and then you have to
Yes.
document everything in order to be
Yes.
reimbursed. If
That's right,
not,
sir.
then you don't
That's
get
good.
reimbursed.
That's
Yeah,
right.
they just
Then we
don't
have
get
the
money
oversight.
'cause no.
Okay.
It's reimbursement basically.
Makes it a little better.
Yeah.
Well,
It does.
But,
well, that gon' it make it better, but it's hurting the city, because folks, they don't have no money to put up front.
they,
Folks, we don't have no money to put up front.
they won't, yeah, they won't get any commission. I mean, they
That's
don't
what
put it
I
up for
mean.
anyone. But let me be clear, Commissioner Paris, I hear you loud and clear. And I'm not saying either the city would do anything in a willful manner, but people make mistakes, and the mistake is going to cost the county. That's where I'm very worried about this, Commissioner, very, very worried. That's why I prefer somebody who's experienced and who knows how this process works to advise me.
Well, the state,
To me-
this thing ain't set up with nothing. What kind of limit you got for the city? What kind of limit you got for the county? I mean, you got two counties, you got two cities here. Some of them places got more cities. You got, what, $500,000. Well, they pushing it, saying, they not saying the county supposed to get more money, they not saying the city supposed. What is the limit for each city? What is the limit for the county? I mean, what the deal is on this? Come on, let's
sir.
get real now. Them people in Tallahassee should have done this. They should have been handling all this. But they want to send it down to a consultant.
Originally, what the Florida Association of Counties wanted was that the county would get their own money to manage their own money, and then the cities would get their money through the Florida League of Cities. And Chairman, you're absolutely correct. I believe, I'm not saying that I know this, I believe what happened is that the state looked at it and said, we're not going to do business with all these counties and then all these cities. We're going to do business with the counties and let the counties worry about the cities. That's what happened.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I might, it makes a little difference if it's on a reimbursement, because the consultant can then review what they're doing, make sure it complies, make sure all the invoices, they got receipts for every dollar spent.
No double dipping.
Yeah, and all of that. So that throws a lot more back to the consultant that's going to be running the program for the county. So I mean, I'm a little better now that I've understood that it's reimbursement and not just spending money and then hope it complies.
Yeah.
It should comply before they get reimbursed. So
Correct.
that, I feel a little more comfortable with that, but I'm like Chairman, I'm concerned about it too.
Because in first place, them people coming here with a project, nobody know nothing. I mean, hey, well, don't bring me no project unless you gonna spend, don't come in here with, we got 500, don't come in here with no $200,000 project. What you gonna tell them they can spend? How much can they spend? Them people need to know that before they go to wasting their time setting up a project. So I guess they gonna bring you some projects, but.
I would say, actually, we're gonna have slightly above 2 million, because this 528, if that's a number, that's only 25% of what the county, is earmarked for the county. So the 500 is what it is. They sent you that upfront. This is not a correct term, but like seed money. You have that cash to start your start some of your projects. But the other 75% is all reimbursement.
And what they gonna do, so you got $100,000 going to consultant altogether. When you pay them 25 each, what? if you get $2 million.
Yeah, well, and I have to double check and see, you know, the percentage for the admin, is it based on how much money you spend, which I think it probably will be. Almost like a CDBG project.
Yeah.
You know, basic is how it is. The same way we deal with Deborah. What she spends is what she gets her admin fee from. So it's the same concept, you know, but.
Well, in the end, you're gonna have $2 million project,
And what you don't spend goes back to the feds.
what you don't spend go back to the Fed, but you can't tell the cities how much they can spend. Then if we spend some, they gonna say we took it all. It's messed up.
Commissioners, every project has to be tied to COVID.
I know.
So that's sort of going to limit your projects because it has to be tied to COVID. So, you know, drainage projects, you're not going to tie that to COVID. So they're going to have to be real specific on how this ties to COVID in order before we can, I'd say, approve their plan.
Pam, is like a FEMA project being tied to Hurricane Michael. The
Mhm.
same line of
Exactly.
thinking, the same way.
Exactly.
Well,
What are we looking for?
So I'm looking, I need two motions. The first one is just to ratify the chairman's signature on the agreement that we had to upload to the state. That's the first.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Patton. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That pass unanimously.
And the second motion is, you know, is to either engage Ms. Busby along with the assistance of Mr. Ben, or we go out for RFPs, one of the two, because in order to get this project done, Commissioner, I need a consultant managing this project for us. You need to have the staff, nor the time, honestly, to get this done between now and December, if, you know, if we want to spend any of this money on some of this COVID expenses we've had since March.
Yeah, we only have 5.5 months to get this done.
Yeah, but that's to select somebody to administer the program, come up with a spending plan, which you gotta have projects from both cities and the county to put into the spending plan.
Yeah.
And then spending the money. That money, you can't allocate the money and you can spend it next year. It's gotta be spent
This
and
year.
done by December the 31st.
Right.
Yes.
So to go out with a 30-day bid pilot, a 30-day advertisement to try to get somebody to do it, you're 30 days more behind the ball.
Yeah, you're gonna be.
Based on that, I'm gonna make a motion that we go with Ms. Tracy Busby, contingent upon you making her aware of our concerns,
Yes.
as you've heard here this morning from the board, and she's willing to comply with all of that. That'd be my motion.
And I'll second that.
Okay, I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Bolt. Any more discussion?
I have something, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
I just want to make sure the board is aware. I actually talked with Chris Rito from ARPC about this, and a lot of those people with the Regional Planning Council are still working not full-time. A lot of them are working from home, so I just want the board to be aware, ARPC wasn't trying to say, no, they can't help. They just didn't want it to, I mean, obviously they're in a 9-county region. They don't have the know-how, or not know-how, but the ability
Yeah.
to do the spending plan and administer the spending plan for all 9 counties in their region. So that's why they're wanting to help.
They're very
with the
restricted
plan.
right now. Yes, sir.
So, just to clarify.
Well, do she got the staff for this? Do she got the staff?
Yes, sir.
If not, she working more than herself.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, 'cause most of this is gonna be a learning process. So they're gonna be shooting stuff back at you.
Yeah.
Shoot it up there. It ain't gonna go just like FEMA. All right. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That pass unanimous.
That's all I have for Pam.
Okay. Ms. Pam, y'all got anything set up for y'all to do, like the process for, like, do y'all go to school in your department?
Yes, sir. We take training every year. Me and Jeannie have our advanced professional development.
Do y'all take a leadership class?
I don't think that's, Oh, the director's course. We took the director's course.
Okay, because the reason I'm asking, so I've been getting a lot of complaints, but the way you talk to them, people don't like that. I mean, they're not understanding that way. Do they teach that in class?
No, sir, not really. I mean, unfortunately, I have a tone of voice that is sort of gruff. I'm trying to work on that.
Yeah, I understand, but what the problem is, in emergency, the reason I'm saying that, because you're dealing with emergency management. And you're in an emergency situation when your department get involved. And the people, they just, they already got problems and they think you're busting at them or something like that. I mean, you saying you're not. I understand, but that's what I'm talking about.
I'm trying to work on that.
Yeah, but maybe want to get with Mike and see if they got a class where they can get something going now. Anybody got anything else? Okay, keep up the good work.
Good. Thank you, Pam.
Let's take 5.
As your realtor, I can help educate you on the various aspects of buying and owning coastal properties. From taxes to coastal setback lines to where to find the best oysters, it's all part of being your realtor.
Too often our friends tell us of it being a hardship to buy a house, and the agent was gone as soon as the closing. We've had quite the opposite experience with Kara.
If you're looking to buy or sell real estate on St. George Island, I'd love to work with you. Please call or text me at 850-653-7753.
Do a straight line.
We have a full menu coffee bar, from lattes and cappuccinos to some of our signature drinks, such as our affogatos and black bottom coffees. And don't forget about the famous crafted coffee blend. We also roast our coffee beans on site, so it's super fresh. Don't like coffee? We also have teas and lemonade. If you're hungry, we serve breakfast sandwiches on our homemade bread, or we have New York water bagels. Or try the biscuits and gravy that are to die for. We also have lunch sandwiches and soups. We do carry some gluten-free and vegan options as well. Hear what some locals have to say.
I love the biscuits and gravy.
You know something? The coffee here is great.
I love the ice cream of the chocolate company.
So come check us out and stay a while. In here, it's just like Cheers, where everybody knows your name.
Oh, hey, Dan.
and her friends want to make sure everyone in Franklin County responds to the census.
Everyone count. Please be counted. My name is Gladys Gatlin.
If you or someone you know has a tablet or a laptop, now you can go to my2020census.gov and put in your street address to be able to complete the census. It's now easier than ever. That's my2020census.gov.
Everyone counts. So everyone in Franklin County, please do the census. My name is Sherlyn Clark, and I count.
Yes, sir.
No, Franklin County Board of County Commissioners now back in session. Next on the agenda will be Extension Office Director, Mr. Eric Love Strange.
Morning, Commissioners. I do not have any action items in my report for you today, so if you have questions
Let me
about
get your name for the record, Mr. Eric.
County Extension Director Eric Lovestrand.
Don't have nothing, anybody got anything for Mr. Eric?
Keep up the good work, Mr. Eric.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Eric.
Next on the agenda will be Library Director, Ms. Wendy Nixon Roundtree.
Whitney Roundtree, Franklin County Public Libraries. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
All right, although my original report states that I'm requesting to advertise for one full-time library assistant position, I would like to request approval from the board to advertise for 2 library assistant positions. The first is to fill the position left vacant by my promotion to director. The second is to fill the position left vacant by Ms. Teresa Jackson in Carabel, who turned in her letter of resignation to me yesterday. Currently, the libraries are operating with 1 full-time staff assistant and 2 part-time staff assistants. This unfortunately does not leave me with enough coverage for our current hours of operations at both locations. I would like approval to advertise for the 2 positions simultaneously in-house and to the public with the starting salaries of $25,000.
Got the money in your budget?
I do.
Pledge
Now
your
you got it
vote.
for the first, you got it for the second one?
Sorry?
Do you have it for the second?
Yeah, the first is my salary that is now vacant by my promotion to director. The second is Teresa's
Okay.
position that is now vacant.
Okay, so moved.
Second.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Masters, second by Commissioner, let's see, Jones and who is? Both. Any more discussion on that? What, is both of these gonna be full-timers?
Full-time, yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I guess I need, is you got enough staff, is you got enough staff now you operating?
Well, basically, I'm still operating as director and staff assistant because we don't have the staff coverage. So last week, I spent 2 days at the East Point branch by myself covering the desk. Tomorrow, I will be in Carabel by myself covering the desk.
And Commissioner, what I did let her know that if she runs short and she has to reduce hours at either of the branches, just let us know. We'll put it on the website. But that might happen from time to time until she's able to interview and hire 2 people to fill these slots, because they're below 0 now when it comes to staff. They just don't have enough staff to keep 2 branches open up in the hours that we do.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But just always keep in mind, we have to keep the hours open as required by the consortium.
Yeah, one branch has to be 40 hours.
Yes,
Yeah.
so that's very important. We have to at least keep one branch open 40 hours.
Okay.
For the funding, for the grant funding.
All right, any more discussion? How long it take us to advertise and get somebody hired? What the advertising time is it, 30 days?
I mean, we probably do it for 2 weeks, and 2 different two Thursdays, and put it on the website, run it across all the county departments, even though nobody's gonna transfer to go lower, because everybody else is above that now, but yeah, we'll get it out there as much as we can.
Probably within the month.
Yeah, so within a month, we should be able to have somebody in place. Yeah, 2 weeks of advertising, interviews, and then have someone in place.
All right. Y'all ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That pass unanimous.
Thank you. And just some public announcements. The summer reading theme this year is Imagine Your Story. It's all about fantasy and mythology. The staff has been working diligently to bring virtual programming to our patrons. Each week, the library hosts virtual story time, crafts, and contests via the branch's Facebook pages. All summer reading events and programs are sponsored by our partners at Rock by the Sea and the Friends of the Franklin County Public Libraries. We're also doing reading challenge sheets, so students can read their books and log their reading. Each sheet grants them 1 ticket entry into the grand prize drawing. The prizes this year are Fire HD 8 tablets, 2 prizes per library and 1 per person, and this event is open to grades K through 12, and the deadline is July 31st. And that's it for me.
Anybody got anything for? Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, we done Ms. Hines. Next on the agenda be Wayne Memorial, Mr. David Walker, CEO.
Good morning, David Walker, CEO of the hospital. Thank you all for your continued support of Weems Memorial Hospital. We greatly appreciate it. Just to give you a high-level overview of some of our COVID-19 activities. Our COVID-19 mission is to plan, prepare, prevent, and respond. Infection disease protocols. Anyone entering the hospital and clinics are required to be pre-screened, receive a temperature check, and wear a mask. If someone need a mask, one will be given to them upon entry. Visitation is still limited in the ED and inpatient wings. Employers are required to undergo pre-screening and wear masks as well in all of our facilities. Our antibody testing efforts, we have provided community-wide COVID-19 antibody testing in various parts of the county. We have conducted targeted testing on our frontline workers in the county. To date, we have tested over 550 individuals, and out of that 550, 6 of those probably tested positive. Right now, the results that we're getting in. In addition, we will have the capability very soon to conduct and read a serology antibody test on one of our lab machines in the hospital. So what that means, one of our lab machines we have right now just got FDA approval, emergency utilization authorization to do antibody tests, to read that test. So instead of sending the antibody test out to LabCorp, we'll be able to do that reading right in-house. So that should be coming very, very soon. And then with that test, we'll get the results within 16 minutes. Our COVID-19 PCR testing nasal swab equipment, we have ordered a new COVID-19 testing machine for the hospital that would allow us to get our COVID-19 results within 45 minutes. Delivery date for that would be 6 to 8 weeks. That is very important for the county. We're trying to build an infrastructure for testing here in our own county. And so when we get that particular machine, it'll be certified, and Department of Health will recognize that as a legitimate testing equipment. So if anybody get tested in a hospital or even at the health department, or when we have these drive-throughs pods, they can take that that testing saliva and bring it to the hospital, and we'll get those tests within an hour. And that'll help the county out, because we want to identify, isolate, if you have anybody that have that particular COVID-19 virus, because right now it takes a while, 3 to 5 days sometimes, to get the results back. So right now that'll help us. So we really want to try to build that infrastructure for 2 things. We got school starting back as well. When schools start back, kids' activities go on, our cases probably will go up, and we want to make sure that we begin to identify these particular individuals that may have COVID-19. We also will have a joint testing event again with the health department next Tuesday from 8 o'clock to 1 p.m. and we'll send that out as an announcement as well. So we'll do a testing pod of COVID-19 nasal swab as well as the antibody testing at the hospital next Tuesday. We've ordered some EKG machines, and we have purchased 3 new EKG machines, 2 for the clinics, 1 for the hospital. Currently, we have 2 EKG machines for the clinics now, but we'll get the new ones and place those at the clinic, and then we'll place a new one at the hospital as well, so they'll give us 3 at the hospital. We also continue to upgrade our IT equipment to be more efficient utilizing telemedicine. We're looking at additional telehealth funding opportunities for the hospital. And reason why we're doing this, we really want to diversify our funding opportunities. So we get some more telehealth medicine money for IT, then instead of me using the COVID-19 money that we just got from the federal government, we can put that to the side and use that later for other things. So we're just trying to diversify our funding while the money is out there for that. So we should be hearing something very, very soon about another funding opportunity that we may receive. We have implemented telehealth options between the clinics and EMS. Right now, that's working. They just started that process. In addition, EMS Community Paramedicine Program is up and running. And one of the things about the EMS Community Paramedicine Program, it really shows that EMS can do more inside of our communities besides just transporting people to the hospital or out of county. I mean, they can come, they have done it before. They were in Alligator Point, as well as some of our other community places doing the antibody draws. They also will begin to do pre-screenings, diabetes pre-screenings in the community, to residents. So we really want to take that program and really help them screen for chronic disease, people in the community. So that will help us out a lot as well. So we can do a whole lot. And our EMS Community Paramedicine Program will be looked at as a pilot, from the state of Florida, State Rural Health Office. And so they want to see what we do here, and eventually they'll begin to kind of roll that out to some of the other rural areas in the county, throughout the state rather. Our statewide coordination, we have been participating on statewide calls with the Florida Surgeon General, AHCA Secretary, and Florida Hospital Association receive daily updates. AHCA and DOH are monitoring bed census at each hospital, healthcare facilities in the state to monitor surge capacity. This is very important. ICU bed capacity is a high priority, and the monitoring will be ongoing. So now the focus really is looking at our ICU beds statewide, and our ICU beds that we utilize in this county is in Bay County and Leon. And so we want to make sure we pay close attention to the utilization of those ICU beds in those particular counties, because when you have we have increased testing, so the testing will go up, but we want to make sure we watch ICU beds as well as hospitalization. If the hospitalizations are low, even though our testing numbers in the county may go up, we okay. But if the hospitalizations go high, with the increased testing numbers, and then out of that hospitalizations, you have a whole bunch that need ICU bed capability, then you really got to begin to plan, and bring other resources in, either into the county or either out in Bay County or Leon County. And so ICU beds, just make sure you think about that when you're reading all this about the tests going up. Is the ICU bed availability low or high? If the hospitalizations go up, and then another caution is if we have a spike, you will have some cases that may go up, but you don't want a spike. You don't want to have 100 tomorrow. You may want to have 100 maybe in the beginning of August, sort of. So these are kind of things you kind of like risk factors you kind of watch, to see if your community is handling the virus pretty well. So we know positive cases will come up. We understand that. We're watching our hospitalizations. Then I'm looking at the counties, Bay County and Leon County, and watching the ICU bed capability. And then we're also looking at the spike of numbers that will go up as well. So the working with the health department has really been real good. We're constantly doing that. Communication has been good. I want to thank Pam Brunell. We got 30,000 procedural masks that was delivered to us Thursday evening, and 1,000 face shields. We put a request in. They asked us what do we need. We just put procedural masks, and I didn't know they was bringing a whole boatload, but I told them to bring it on. So we got that. So that's very good. We did welcome a new board member, Dr. David Harris. He lives in Alligator Point. He came, we did a tour of the hospital, came to a board meeting. I think he's going to be a great addition to our board as well. And I think that's it for me. But right now, staff are doing a great job. It's amazing that you have COVID-19 crisis, but then you have all other medical issues and staff have to work with that. But I think the team is doing a great job. I think EMS, the clinic, and the hospital really is working in unity, really. And we're not there yet, so we can always learn and grow. We also still utilizing TLS Memorial Hospital. They have a COVID rural health website for the providers in the area, and we're utilizing that COVID resource website to bring down different materials to certain things that we need to use in the hospital around this initiative. Any questions?
Yeah, I got one. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I got a two-part question. One is a statement. The last time I saw on the news, Bay County had no more ICU beds available. And the last counts I had, Tallahassee had 8 available. Now, this has been almost a week ago, so I don't know where they're at today, but as you mentioned ICU beds a while ago, those beds in where we would normally go are reaching capacity, and one of them is already full as far as I know, unless they've released some people and not filled it back in as their cases rise. Number 2, ventilators. We talked about, have we received those yet?
Yeah. We have received the ventilators at the hospital, and now we have to have the company come in to certify the ventilators. That everything is working properly with them.
And we have people trained to operate.
They have to do training at that time as well.
They'll provide the training.
They will provide the training now. And that's another thing about healthcare. When you get the material in, you think you can go up and running, but no, they have to bring people in to certify the machines and then train them, make sure people are trained to get it going. And also the ventilators, we were approved to purchase the ventilators out of the trust fund, but we did not do that. We're using our own COVID money to do it for the ventilators.
Seemed like I lost my train of thought here. There was one more question that I had. As it relates to funding mechanisms, and you heard us talk about this money's coming down to the counties, but can only be used for COVID. And of course, you can't duplicate that. But if there's some way that we could use this additional spending plan that we got to come up with for these CARE Act dollars to as another stream to help the hospital, because they're the ones that's gonna respond to this
Mm-hmm.
COVID-19. I know we're doing some things as a county, but most of it's with our ambulances.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if there's some way that we can incorporate some of that without being redundant and not going against the law of having, you know, using two streams of money for the same acquisition, I believe is the way to put it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, one of the things, that's good, that's a good point. You know, I looked at the criteria a little bit for the county CARES, I do it again. But EMS, you know, we included EMS in our allocate, to receive the dollars, but no money was really geared towards EMS. You know, I hadn't seen anything come from the federal level that carved that money would be used for EMS right now. So, I mean, there are some things that, you know, we can look at.
Okay.
You know.
I don't think they have to carve it out. It says in the CARES Act, as long as it's in response to COVID-19.
Yeah.
It doesn't specify where that money can
No,
be spent.
no, but I'm saying EMS was like, you know, if you look at the healthcare system, you got a lot of like healthcare entities like hospitals, health centers, you know, things that provide medical, you know, monies were like geared and pushed towards those entities. But the emergency medical services, seem no money, although we use our money for that, but no money came down from the federal government earmarked specifically for that.
Oh, specifically for
yeah,
that.
Yeah, that's what I'm
But
talking
it
about.
doesn't exclude
Yeah,
that
it doesn't exclude that. So we may be able to use some stuff.
You know,
for EMS.
commissioners, that's kind of wild because as a county, you're required to provide EMS service, but you're not required to have a hospital per se, but they give the hospital money, but not EMS. That's.
Well, I mean, I'm just looking at ways.
I see what you're saying, though. That really is.
That we can actually use some of that money and use it by December the 31st.
Yes.
If possible, if it's allowable.
Yeah.
Because our EMS has not had to respond to COVID either, just as the hospital's never had to respond to COVID.
Yes.
So are there additional things that we need to do for our EMS that we could possibly use some of this money for?
Yes,
So I'm
sir.
just throwing that out there, Mike, for
That's a
y'all.
good idea. Very good idea.
To actually get with the consultant and get with David, and if there's some way that we can do some things with our EMS to make sure they have everything they need.
Yeah, because you don't face the same deadline we face of December 2020.
No.
Not with his funding streams, but with ours we do.
Yeah, I'm with Commissioner Parry.
Yeah, we can brainstorm with the consultant also. We'll
Okay.
definitely do that.
So I'm just suggesting y'all work
that's great.
together to see if there's some other way. As you said, his doesn't have a deadline on it, this does.
Yeah, let's use ours first.
Well, I mean.
Yeah, I got you.
Maybe that's why they sent it to the county, because we responsible for
EMS.
For the EMS. They
And
know
the
that.
hospital and.
Yeah.
And the clinics.
Yeah, it's a major, the county got we're a major entity for healthcare. We got EMS, we got 2 clinics, and you have an inpatient when you get an ED. That's the major, medical institution in the county, and the county is responsible for that.
That's all the questions I had, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Walker, let me ask you a question. I was told that they got a bracelet or beeper that if a person had, like if you working in a hospital or something, they got and somebody come in and they had COVID, that bracelet would beep. You heard of that?
I hadn't heard of that yet. I definitely will research it. Yeah.
I was told that from a person working in Atlanta out of hospital. And they said if a person had it and come around you, said that bracelet will beep. So check into that, because it'll be good for staff and it'll be good for people in the.
Yeah, that'd be good. If somebody got it, then they have to wear a bracelet.
No.
He said you can wear a bracelet that detects.
Detect it, okay.
They said if somebody had it.
Okay, well, I definitely reach that as soon as I leave here.
That'd be good for your frontline workers and county staff.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah. They say go to beeping if somebody had it.
I'd like to have one of them.
Me too.
Me too. I'm glad you said it first. I wanted to say it first, but I said,
I'd like to have one of them.
Let's order around.
As you come in contact with your constituency and everything else, and you have to deal with people one-on-one a lot of times.
Yeah, we definitely, I'm gonna look at, as soon as I leave here, we'll definitely look at that and research that.
Some kind of beeper they say.
I think it'll be, if it is one, it'll be great to have. We definitely get them here.
It'd be good on the front end, like you see.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead.
David, how are negotiations for management contract coming along with Jim Coleman and Company?
Great. Mike will speak this also, but yeah, we talked about the agreement. Michael and I have done all we can do right now. I think the next thing is for Attorney Schuler to meet with Jim Coleman, you know, and then take it from there. But it's been going well with Jim. You know, we looked at the different agreements that they recommended, and we don't see anything that's in there that they did not say that it would do. Just a note, we've been constantly in conversation with Tallahassee Memorial Hospital. You know, we're not waiting for the agreement to be signed with Jim Coleman if we want to bring services in the county. I had a meeting with some representative from TMH. You know, we looked at with Dr. Conrad, we talked about orthopedic services, we talked about wound care, we talked about having a sleep center here at the hospital. We also talked about a doctor that is interested in coming into the county. We decided that it'd probably be best if TMH hire this doctor, you know, than us right now. So the doctor will be here next week just to take a tour of the hospital. Now he won't be able to start probably until November, but he's a young guy. He's been following Wings for 5 years. Initially, when he came out of residency school, you know, he had talked to Mike Cooper at that time about joining, but he just felt at that time, you know, the situation was not right for him. He's worked at a critical access hospital in Montana, I believe, and he worked in the clinic. He had a lot of great ideas that how we can hook up and really enhance our clinics, but also enhance our inpatient unit at the hospital. So TMH is, you know, he's coming here next Monday for a visit, and so that'll be very, very good as well. But like I said, you know, we were looking to get, you know, some orthopedic services here in the county. You know, any kind of service we can get, you know, clinically here, you know, we're open to it, you know, as opposed to waiting for an agreement, the management agreement, if TMHs would do that. So they've been very helpful with that as well.
As well, if they hire him, they gonna rent a space from us to pay us for the space, what I read.
Yeah, they're gonna rent the space for us. You know, they have to pay us fair market value of the space. And then we'll probably contract with him to oversee our nurse practitioners, you know, in our clinics. You know, so it's a great thing. You know, young guy, family guy. You know, nothing is etched in stone. We're just in the early stages right now, but it looking very, very favorable, and that'll be a very great asset to this community.
Well,
in that context of, excuse me.
I just want, what is recommended for your frontline workers as to how many times they be tested, or anybody?
Well, you know,
I mean,
the thing of it is that you can get tested today.
Yeah.
And I go out tomorrow, you know, and touch something, and then I got it. So usually, you know, every month, every 2 weeks, sometimes, you know, it all depends if you have the equipment and the supplies to do it. But eventually, especially for medical personnel, you know, you may want to look, you know, to start testing them, you know, every 2 weeks to every month. You know, we may do something like that as long as we don't run out of supplies. We do it, but we also do the antibody testing. We have that can give us some quick results.
Okay. I was wondering about that.
Yeah, well, the infections, the disease is so infectious. You know, like I said, you can get cleared today, and I can go out here and touch something, and then I get it not knowing, and then next Friday I may have it.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry about that.
I just wanted to put a plug in for the management contract negotiations that we're looking at. I want to be sure that we consider a comprehensive look at our healthcare system. It's not only just our hospital and the management of that hospital, but I also want to see the expansion of our EMT services across the entire county, particularly with more outreach toward the east. I want to see increased medical personnel brought in all levels. And also I want to see an upgrade, recognition of our outpatient facilities. It's a comprehensive approach. The hospital being the anchor, but the management company certainly recognizing the entire healthcare spectrum of Franklin County.
That's good. Makes sense.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody got anything else? Well, keep up the good work.
All right, thank y'all. Have a great day. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, next will be, that's it, man. Next on the agenda.
We're on page 4, Commissioner, and the next will be Kim Bodine, and I have her on the line. I'm going to Kim, I'm going to unmute you now. Let's see, you should be unmuted, Kim. Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now, Kim.
Awesome.
Let me get your
Well,
name. Let me get your name for the record, Ms. Kim.
Okay. Kim Bodine, Executive Director for Career Source Gulf Coast.
Okay.
And Kim, we have you down for two items, two action items. One is a grant, the grantee, sub-grantee agreement, and the other is a nomination to someone to your board, okay?
Yes.
Okay, so you can go
The
ahead.
sub-award agreement. Do you want me to go ahead?
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, Commissioners. The sub-award agreement is an agreement that we sign periodically with the Department of Economic Opportunity. We last had an agreement signed in the year 2012, so the current one has been in place for some time, and it is far different from the 2012 agreement. In fact, I worked with Mr. Schuler and Michael on this agreement because the language in it was really not commensurate with what we felt it should be. However, I know that over 400 submitted to DEO regarding the agreement, and I think that there were maybe 10 changes made to the agreement. It is still not where we would like it, but there has not been an appetite across the state to try to hold up the agreement, and so we are recommending that the County Commission approve the agreement. It outlines all kinds of things. Much of this is redundant. It is also in our 4-year plan, but generally it outlines the roles and responsibilities of workforce boards, local elected officials, and the Department of Economic Opportunity. I think that they've changed it since the last iteration so that the local elected officials assignment is reduced to an acknowledgement of the agreement. And I think that, at some point in the future it may be revisited, but for now we have to move forward with this. They've requested that we have them signed by July 17th. Our executive committee has approved the agreement, and it actually went into effect July 1.
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Jones and Massey. Discussion? Any discussion on that? Oh, did you look it up?
Mr. Chairman, I've reviewed the original draft that was sent down. I have not seen, at least I don't recall seeing the amended agreement, but I think I agree with Ms. Kim, even in the absence of reading the revisions. It's like a lot of these grants we get from these state agencies. If we want their money and we want their assistance, we sign the agreement they send, or we just don't take their assistance. So.
You got it right. Okay, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimously. Okay, next, Ms. Kim.
Yes, sir. We have submitted a letter recommending for appointment by the County Commissioners Eleanor Mount Simmons to our board. She has a consulting business there and is familiar with our work and has worked in the same field that we work in the same states. I've discussed the appointment with her. We believe she would be a great addition to the board, and we are just asking you to consider our recommendation for nomination for appointment.
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Massey. Now how y'all go about doing that?
I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble hearing.
He's asking, what's the process for choosing your board members for the particular seats that you have? Like, for instance,
We asked.
Go ahead, Kim.
We asked for recommendations from people in the community and our board members that are there, and so her name came up. We also had another individual that we were looking at who sort of declined at this point in time. They didn't feel like it was a good time for them to be involved with that. And so that's how we just ask people that are in the community.
Okay. All righty. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimously.
All right, Kim, anything
Thank
else?
you.
Anything else?
No, sir. Stay healthy. Stay well.
All right, you too. Thank you so much. All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, next on the agenda will be the clerk of the court, Ms. Marcia Johnson. Marcia M. Johnson.
Good morning. I think y'all can hear me. Number one is we have some more of the county held tax certificates. And I have to notify you of these that went to public sale and no one purchased them at the tax deed sale. We have a list of 3 today. This is the 3rd batch of the county held ones that have been advertised. The sale was held on June 29th and nobody bid. These properties are available should you decide you wish to purchase them, or you can waive your right to purchase them. And they'll be placed on list of lands available. And that's on my website. If not purchased, they will street to the county after 3 years. And I've had this list. These properties are within that same area as properties I presented to you back on April 9th that you elected not to purchase. These 3 are in that same area. So I need you, a motion to either elect to purchase or elect not to purchase these properties.
I make a motion not to elect these.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Massey, second by Commissioner Parrish. Any more discussion on that? Any discussion?
So it's not to purchase, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimously.
And number 2 is, the budget workshop is scheduled for 9 o'clock in the morning on Thursday, July the 30th. If additional time is needed, we will continue to Friday, July 31st. All constitutional offices, departments, and non-governmental agencies have been asked to keep their request at the same funding level as last year, with the exception of any state mandated increases. Action I'm requesting is a motion to tentatively approve the same funding as the current year for the non-governmentals and not require their attendance on Thursday, and to formally approve this Thursday, July 30th date for the budget workshop with the constitutional department heads and other governmental offices.
Question, Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
If we ask them not to come on that Thursday and tentatively approve their budget, that doesn't keep us from going down, but we can't go up. Is that correct?
Correct.
So move.
Second.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by 2. Commissioner Master and Commissioner Jones. Discussion. You know, yeah, I want these non-governmentals. They got to find out now if we in kind of hard time. We're gonna be for the next till this COVID get out from around us. We're in a situation with that, so they got to realize if I'm not with getting a non-governmental money, and we have to end up cutting a worker. I can't do that. No way. They getting a non-governmental money and can't give our people a raise. I ain't with that, cause some of them non-governmental, you know, they just gonna have to bite the bullet if it come to it. In my opinion, I'm just one commissioner, but that's how I feel about it. Any more discussion?
Yes, sir, if you don't mind. And I'm going to try and sit down and work with the clerk's office as best as I could here to schedule as least people in this room as possible as they come to testify. And if I could work out with the clerk's office, maybe have some of them maybe just call in, if like the state attorney, if they don't have to make that travel, where they can just call in and talk to you guys and talk about the budget. So it's not an easy task, but I'm gonna try my best to schedule it that way so we have less traffic inside this room as we're going over the budget. You know, we will do, as usual, we'll do public comments in the beginning, you know, let the public speak about how they feel about the budget, and then from there, we'll try our best to schedule to, you know, stagger throughout the day, using the phone as much as possible to review department budgets with certain agencies. I'm trying my best, and I'll let you guys know, hopefully by the next meeting, what we've accomplished here.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
I agree with that, and we may have to set time slots. And
Yes.
you may finish one and you gotta wait 10 minutes but I would rather do that than to fill this room up with everybody
Thank
at
you.
one time.
Thank
So
you,
I
Doc.
agree with that.
Okay, that was my next thing, exactly what Commissioner Parrish, they might be staggered, because, again, we might accomplish one quicker than the other. You know, I mean, you guys have done this before, you know how this works. And I shouldn't have to do this, but I'll do this for the public education. Understand, the budget workshops is an opportunity for this Board of County Commissioners to talk to your department heads, to talk to the constitutional officers and other agencies about their budgets. This is not the public hearing on the budgets. It is not. And there always seems to be confusion. This is your chance to work out the budget, and then the public has their shot to come in and say, we like this, we don't like this, we don't think this is a good idea. They'll have their shot to do that.
Yeah.
But these workshops are not that. It's
No,
a
that's
workshop.
That's for the commissioners and.
To talk, correct, and make
We
your
know that.
decisions. Like Commissioner Parrish asked, and it was verified, what you said here is the highest. Can't go up from this. You can go down, but you can't go up from what you do this. And I mean, everybody's here, we've been doing it for years. So, and I think we've done a very good job. We'll continue to do that. And that's what I wanted to say before you guys take your vote.
Any more discussion? Y'all ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That pass unanimous.
That was the only action items I had, but Aaron has prepared another update on our financials for the county, so I'm gonna let Aaron talk to y'all about that.
Thank
Hello, Commissioners. During the partial months of March and May and all of April, many non-essential businesses and bars during this time were closed. Travel was discouraged by the closure of beaches and transient rentals, and restaurants were limited to carry out only by the state of Florida to try and slow the spread of COVID-19. The board had asked for revenue status updates for the months of the closures. Franklin County has just received the distribution of sales taxes from the Florida Department of Revenue for the month of April sales. The total tourist development tax, which is a 2% sales tax levied on transient rentals within the county, had sales tax proceeds of $20,066.60 for the month of April 2020, and April of 2019 had sales tax proceeds of $82,258.08. The April proceeds for transient rentals came in at just 24% of the prior year period. This reduction is attributed to the closure of the entire month to new arrivals and check-ins at transient rentals. Hotels and motels were still allowed to rent, and existing vacation rentals that extended into the closure period were permitted. Franklin County also levies a 1% discretionary sales surtax on all taxable sales in Franklin County, which is used to fund the Healthcare Trust Fund. The 1% sales tax proceeds for the month of April 2020 were $92,809.48, and April of 2019 had sales tax proceeds of $152,507.82. The April proceeds for all taxable sales within the county, not just transient rentals, came in at 61% of the amount collected for the prior year period. This is better than the worst case scenario for all taxable sales estimate of 50% that we expected 1 month ago. I will update the board on the May proceeds at your first meeting in August. At this point in time, the state of Florida has not released any official county revenue estimates for the upcoming fiscal year. Per the state of Florida's Office of Economic and Demographic Research, those estimates may be available mid to late this month. As the county budget year begins in October and ends in September, we are optimistic that sales tax proceeds will not be heavily impacted next fiscal year. Our office has also received the 2020 certified taxable value from the Franklin County Property Appraiser for next year's budget. The certified value for 2020 is $2.14 billion. This amount is an increase of 5.4% over the prior year. This is the 7th year of a steady, sustainable increase in property values. This taxable value is far below the county's market peak of $4.112 billion in 2006 during the real estate boom. Our office will have the proposed budget to the commissioners on July 15th, and the budget workshops will begin on July 30th. That's your update.
All right. Anybody got anything else for Ms. Jones? Y'all keep up the good work. Thank you. Next we have on the agenda, the restore coordinator. Who gonna do it? You?
There's no report from Mr. Pierce today,
No
sir.
report? Okay, no report. Okay, next will be county coordinator, Mr. Michael Monroe.
All right, Commissioners, we're at the bottom of page 5. Item 1 in my report, of course, is authorized by the board. Chairman Lockney signed the COVID-19 local state of emergency declarations for the week starting June 22nd, June 29th, and July 6th. I need action to ratify the chairman's signature on these declarations.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Parrish. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That pass unanimous.
All right, here we go. Item number 2. As the board is aware, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation has an action item on their July 22nd, 23rd commission meeting seeking approval of draft rules to suspend harvest of wild oysters in Apalachicola Bay. This is the first step of a 2-step process to request permission from the commission, and when I say commission, I'm talking about the FWC commission to advertise a rule. The second step would be to take the final rule to the commission at their September meeting for approval. The first rule will include language to suspend harvesting effective August 1st, 2020. But if the commission does not approve the final rule in September, the order would be suspended. There's a 5-year sunset provision in the rule. However, if the restoration is successful prior to the 5 years, based on FWC's monitoring that require at least 300 bags of harvestable sized oysters in a significant portion of the bay, there would be consideration to reopen for commercial fishery of oysters prior to the 5-year sunset. This meeting will be held by video and telephonic participation, similar to ours, what's now referred to as communications media technology, and also allows for comments to be sent prior to the meeting. Will the board send a letter stating the county's concern and or have a designated commissioner speak to the Fish and Wildlife Commission directly during the meeting?
Yeah, I got a problem with what they're doing. I mean, I don't have a problem with them closing because they need to be closed. But I got a problem with what they just sending us a letter saying they're gonna close the bay. Now you got people out there working, been working in the bay, and they not saying they gonna, what them people gonna do? Is they gonna help them economic, you know, with the economic problem they got? They putting people out of work, but they not saying that the people need to either be, they got to have money to live. You just don't go in there and knock them. What they doing? They come in and fire them. You fired, you go somewhere. These people need to be either get some help or get some retraining or something, and watch they down. That's what they're supposed to do, but they just gonna come in here and shut the bay down. And that 5 years, I don't believe it's gonna take no 5 years. It didn't take 5 years in '85, I'll put it that way. I don't know. It might take 5 years or better now.
I'd say we're trying to, all of us has been around it. 18 months is what it takes for oyster to grow, right, Smokey?
If the environmental conditions are
right.
perfect,
And
they're not.
If they're gonna close it for 18 months and give it a check and see if it's available to open back up. And if it is, close the summer oyster like they used to for the time, regulate it, and, you know, 5 years is too much. It's gonna burr up, ain't nobody gonna turn the bottom over. It's gonna be a mess, but 18 months, if they do it, will be enough, and check it and see how it looks. I'm like, Mr. North, somebody's got to help them people out with some money.
Yeah.
I mean, how they
Mr.
gonna?
Chairman, they not gonna help nobody out with no money. You can pretty much write that off.
Yeah.
My main concern is they want to close the bay for 5. I've been dealing with them for 4 or 5 years, 3 or 4 years at least. And I've asked them to close the bay, or I thought they should have some kind of closure, before the bay was just as slick as this tabletop.
Right.
Now there ain't nothing out there. There's a few oysters trying to grow on Cat Point and other little areas, but for the majority of the bay, there's nothing there. They're wanting to now, once it's all gone, now we're gonna step in and make a closure. I don't know if it's gonna come back the way we all want to. Commissioner Massey, you're exactly right. When the environmental conditions was right after Hurricane Dennis, as the chairman referenced, 18 months the bay was full of oysters. But we're not getting the freshwater flows we need. We got too much salt water coming into the bay. You can look along the causeway and you'll see the brackish water. Then you look out past the causeway towards St. George Island and it's bright green. That's all salt water. That's what has contributed to killing all the oyster shells and turning the oyster shells just to gravel, because they will not grow in just a high salinity area. As you look at St. Joe Bay, there's no oysters over there. There's scallops. There ain't no oysters because it's all salt water. Will it come back in 5 years? I don't know. What I do know is every time they close something, such as redfish for 25 years, or trout for the last 10 years, it never reopens. It never reopens. That concerns me a great deal. When they talk about give it 5 years, what I was told earlier this week from one of our legislators, they want to close it for 5 years, but if it doesn't come back, we may have to extend that. Here we go, folks. Here we go. When I say it may not never open, here we go. Leaving it open really is not an option because there's nothing there.
No.
And if they start to grow and the oystermen catch them up, they never will return. So what do? You're in a catch-22. I received a call from one of our state senator yesterday. Said that if we send a letter to FWC today, he would like to be CC'd with that, along with Representative Schoaf. So if we elect to send a letter with our comments, they want, both of our legislative representatives want to be CC'd so they know exactly what letter we have sent to FWC.
Can I ask you a question?
In our opinions. So I don't know, folks. I hate for it to be the legacy of this board to say 20 years from now, if it never opens, y'all the one that wrote the letter to FWC. We're not writing a letter to ask to close the bay. They're not asking our permission to close the bay. They want to know our comments on their proposed rule. So I want to get that out there. This board is not writing a letter asking FWC to shut our bay down. The bay is part of our heritage, part of our history, part of our way of life. This way most people around here, or a lot of people, 2,500, 3,000 people directly affected by that oyster industry out there. Do I think we need to restore Apalachicola Bay? Absolutely. How do we go about it? What do we need to do? I'm not sure, but I hate to see it close and never reopen.
Well, I gave you 18 months. Would you think that y'all 18 months to give it a chance to look at it, see? Because they shut Tampa down. You remember they shut it down for 4 years, was going to look at it, and it's been closed, what, 35 years? It's never reopened.
It says in here that they will look at it as we go, and it's part of this is part of the FSU project going on over there, some of their recommendations to try to rebuild the bay. If you shut the bay down, then you don't have an oysterman on the bay. So if there is oysters growing, it makes it easier on enforcement because there ain't supposed to be nobody out there. If they ride across the bridge and see a boat out there, well, then they send the boat to it because there ain't supposed to be nobody there. It's been very limited as to who could work the bay and who could make it. My thing is that if you get
if you notice in the rule here, it says 300 bags of harvestable size of oysters in a significant portion of the bay. How long would that take, if 300 bags in a significant portion of the bay as a whole? When they seem to be growing better to the east, where you got water coming out of St. Mark's and East River and all that going around and hitting Cat Point. Cat Point seems to be producing the best oyster right now. There's nothing in the west end of the bay. So when they talk about the significant portion of the bay, what exactly are they referencing? I don't know. It says they'll go back and look at it. Well, but my thing is that if they look at it in 2 or 3 years and there's several bars that have met this criteria, why couldn't you have a shortened work week or something like that to allow, you know, a couple of days a week of oyster harvesting? Because as everybody knows, Apalachicola Bay has always been responsible for about 90% of the oysters in the state of Florida, 10% nationwide. And that's our brand. I hate to see that go away. So I would favor, if you get oyster bars that are producing the 300 bags of oysters before 5 years, is to have a shortened work week or something. Allow them some time to go out there and catch an oyster and make a living. I don't see just shutting it down for 5 years, and if the whole bay ain't filled up with oysters, then we extend that. That's a genuine concern of mine.
They go to state acting stupid like they always do. I mean, anytime they want to regulate, but they don't want to put them people out there with them enforcement. You got to regulate, you got to enforce, but they want to put the people out there wide open. They gonna take more bags than what they supposed to, and that's what's been happening. But they gave them a license. They claim you got to have a license nowadays, and they gonna send out here. We gonna close the bay. I want in that letter myself. Them people need some help. Frankly, you putting people out of work, and frankly, a lot of them out of work anyway. They not catching what they supposed to do anyway. Now you gonna put them all the way out of work. Well, give them something to do. Put them on a program, working some way, do something. They can do it. They the state. They always coming down here pushing things, and next they gonna holler county commission. Here you go, talking about, man, that don't even sound right. Talking about the senator and the congressman talking about they want a CCI, but we should be CCing there. They the people who, that's why the people you got to watch who you elect on situations like that. Go pull their name. They want to tell, yeah, it's the county, but they supposed to be fighting for us. Don't put your name down, come down here and tell us, and go in there and act up and fight for them people to get some help. So tell them they're gonna need some help. They're gonna either need some retraining or some kind of money. They still, if it's just temporary, might not be no 5 years. You ain't got to help no 5 years, but you sure don't supposed to put nobody out there, not the state of Florida, throw them out there like this. They're gonna take them. It might take them a month or two to find a job. How they gonna eat? How they gonna find a job? They ain't got no money to put in the car to buy gas.
Are they catching anything there now, Smokey? Any amount of them?
No. And to compound everything, Mr. Chairman, as we keep talking, they're gonna go back and say the state is so far behind on fighting COVID and all these other things. As we all know, if you read the veto bill that the governor signed last week, such as ship money, we're not going to get no ship money this year. So their state is cutting back, and I don't see them actually coming out and setting up a fund for the oystermen. I mean, I really don't. Can we ask? Yes. And while I'm on the subject, I'd like for the chairman to be available to speak at that meeting of FWC.
Yeah, I want to speak to it. Yeah.
He's the chairman,
yes, indeed.
and it's so whatever we do here in the form of what kind of letter we come up with or whatever, I'd like to include the chairman to be, and Michael, you may have to help him with that because it's all virtual.
Yeah, he'd come to my office. We can do it.
And you can help him get set up to where he can speak to the FWC commission when they're listening to this. And
yeah, we need, we go, I'm gonna ask for some help. If we get it, but I'm gonna ask. That's all I can do.
Yeah, I support that, Mr. Chairman, for economic help for those that are going to be displaced from work. And also, I think it's wise to consider that we indicate what are the criteria for opening up the bay again. We talk about 18 months, 5 years, but you old pros here know what that wild-caught oyster looks like when it's ready to open the bay. And I think that we should have in our letter that criteria for opening.
It's Commissioner Parrish said, it ain't but 300 bags of a limit and takes 18 months, and it's going, if it's dry, as he said, it's going to take a long time for them to expand out across the bay to get to that point to grow a bunch of oysters. That's what he's saying. It'd probably take more than 18 months. It'll liable to take 3 or 4 years. But are they going to open it back up when it comes time?
see, Mr. Chairman, if I might, when I was in discussions with all these people, I said, let's do a time limit, just as you suggested, Commissioner Massey, of 18 months. That's what it took after Dennis. And they never would do it. They always wanted to do it by the bushels per acre. If you don't produce 300 bushels per acre, then they're not going to open it up. Who's to say how long that would take? They would not do the time schedule that me and you both know is right with 18 months. They would not do that. And that's why it's taking them so long to actually come in and try to help us restore the bay, because we never could reach an agreement on when we should reopen it. Why close it if you don't have protocol in place to reopen it?
Yes.
As we're all saying here today.
That's right.
And that's the reason it hadn't been done the last 3 or 4 years. If they'd have done it while there were still oysters in the bay to release the spat to reestablish some of the lime rock and the shells that we planted through the big planting process we had 2 or 3 years ago, they cleaned it down as slick as this table, and there ain't really nothing out there to produce a lot of spat to reset the bars. But me and you and the rest of us sitting here are not biologists. We don't have the degree. We don't know what we talking about, even though we live it and have lived it our whole lives. Yeah. We don't have that degree, so we don't really know what we talking about.
When they cleaned all them oysters up, spawning oysters in the channels on the edge, it was closed, it spawned and went in the bay. When they cleaned that all up and moved it back in the bay for them to catch, I was our spawning oysters.
Well, they didn't actually catch those up and move them back in the bay. They caught them up and sold them, and they were contaminated and made a bunch of people sick.
Yep.
They didn't move the oysters to be harvested into clean waters. Relay, we call it.
Yeah.
That ain't what happened. Oystermen went out there and caught them and sold the oysters, and a lot of people got sick. But you're exactly correct, because they were right here on this river channel, and the currents in the bay run from east to west, and then the tidal and the winds and all would distribute that spat all down in the miles and everywhere else west of the river channel here, where there ain't nothing there no more. So no spats getting moved down in that area. And that's one area I've suggested that we replant with oyster shells to allow those oysters to grow, because you do get some food and all when you get high water coming down the river for those oysters. And then you can't catch them because they're in permanently closed waters, but they do release a lot of spats to reset some of the oyster bars from the river channel to the west. But that ain't been done either. And that's Commissioner Jones now has taken my seat on that FSU. And this is one project that I want them to do while we're studying and doing it. They could go ahead and be doing that.
Yeah.
And plant some shells there. Steve Rash has got a bunch of them out there. Do a little project. There's $20 million there the FWC's got to help restore the bay. And go ahead and do that project right here on the river channel. I don't know if they call them cable lumps or what it was right there. But same spot you're talking about. Yeah, before you get, it's about 3/4 away across the bay right there.
Yeah.
You go ahead and plant shells there and get those oysters growing again, which will release spat distributed by the winds and the tides down to some of these other areas west of the river channel here to try to get the whole bay start going again. And that's one project they could do, Commissioner Jones, that wouldn't cost much money and go ahead and start doing this while they're doing all their studying and everything else.
They would.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
If I may, I know it's not gonna matter, but I have to be true to who I am. I'm opposed to them closing the bay because because some things we've enumerated. It's the approach I've seen to it is it doesn't matter who it's gonna affect. This is what needs to be done. I understand that, but I also understand the state of Florida just bought 17,000 more acres of our land in this county that are not on the tax rolls. And whether it's 5 jobs or 50 jobs, now you're further limiting our economy by an action of the state, and I just have a problem with that. When I was first talked to, as Commissioner Parrish referenced, people from the Apalachicola Bay System Initiative Group, because I'm taking the seat that Commissioner Parrish was in, and actually haven't been to a meeting yet. But when they first started talking to me, they were like, well, this isn't a closure, this is just a temporary suspension.
Yeah.
You know, these are the metrics for opening the bay back up. When you start looking at the wording of it, it's so vague, it can mean 20 different things. Like has been said here, and I'm not trying to rehash the same thing, but I'm gonna be representing you, so I want you to know how I feel. If they don't come up with a solid metric, because the way it was put in the Apalachicola Times and in the Tallahassee Democrat is they're closing it for 5 years. There was no discussion of, you know, if it meets these metrics, it's gonna open back up. That was not, it was just 5-year closure. So in light of all the other things that we have as a county being squeezed, with the way they have this worded, I'm opposed to it. I'm not saying there's not validity to what they're trying to do, but I am saying is it feels like a bait and switch. And I think if they ever close it, I don't know if they ever will open it again.
I'm with you. I'm like
oyster
I'm like you and Smokey. If they close it, it'll never be opened back up.
Yeah.
They just,
and as far as the biology part of it, and I'm not disagreeing with Commissioner Parrish, but I posed this question to somebody that I talked to that was somebody that studied in the Bay that I met at Lynn's a while back. And we were discussing different things with the Bay and how they study the Bay. And I said, sir, I have one question for you that I'd like for you to answer me about. They said, okay, what is it? I said, I'd like for you to tell me which lab or tank you use to recreate the systems that we call Apalachicola Bay that changes by the hour that you're studying and calling it science. Because as far as I know, science has to be very controlled environment. You test, you get this result, okay, that didn't work, you test again, try to get a different result. That's science. Our bay changes by the hour.
mm-hmm.
So it's a pseudoscience, but I wouldn't say you can study it in the tank and get a scientific result. Now, no, I'm no biologist either, but I do know enough about the scientific method from high school, so that's kind of how that goes.
I'm sorry.
You're good. I just don't know how it's gonna end, so.
If they'd regulated and kept them people out there enforcing regulation, they regulated, but they didn't do no enforcement. They stopped the Marine Patrol or whatever, and stuff just went to hand, got out of hand. They stopped checking the limit, bag limit. Stuff got out of hand. Supposed to caught 15 bags, people were catching 30. They wasn't putting no shells back. They wasn't putting no shells. They had a boys down there that they were putting a few shells back. The state of Florida, you know, they try to hoodwink you. Come in here and they'll ask you a crazy question. How many oystermen you got? We got the same amount what went down there and bought their lives. Came through them. The same amount what walked in that door down there. And they gonna ask us how many we got. They know how many you got. They know how many shells it take. I tell you what you do. You go to the store and you spend $50, $100 for groceries on a Monday, and you look in that box the next Monday. It can be empty. If you don't put it back, it's gonna stay empty. They wasn't putting the amount of shells they had for each person. And they start shifting the blame here, shifting the blame there. But they the state, they wanna regulate. That's all they doing now, is regulating and talking about they ain't got no money. You don't think they're spending no money? They spending money on everything here.
When they exploded them shells, Smokey, you remember, he was talking about that Texas crew coming here and hopped up about $7, $8, $10 million, bloated out there in the mud, didn't care where they blowed it, got our money and left. They didn't care where they put the shells. There was too many people after the money, they wouldn't listen. Remember the Smokey was blowing it out there in the mud, just tons of shells, putting it in the mud. They got that $10, $12 million, went back to Kristen Beach, Texas, Kristen, and they didn't care. They just put it out there.
I know it. It's the buddy system. They done paid their buddy. Now what they gonna do this time?
Mr. Chairman, one more thing. I was also relayed the message that we should not fight this closure. We should make recommendations how to improve it.
Well,
So I just want y'all to know that too. That's the message that was relayed to me.
In that spirit, I really believe that Chairman Lockley and Commissioner Parrish should both be designated speakers at this meeting representing this commission. This is a huge historical point here in Apalachicola.
Well, I think the chairman understands that he's oystered out there for a living. He can handle this situation.
I just was thinking
I've never
numbers
oystered
stronger.
for a living,
Yep.
but I've also always worked in the seafood industry, and the company I work for owns an oyster company. So, you know, I've never actually went out there and made a living on the bay, but I know all about it because of what I do. But Commissioner Lockley has actually made a living out there
Yes,
tonguing
sir.
oysters,
Yes,
so
I
he
knew that. I was
knows
just-
what's going on,
I
and
was
I
just
have
thinking
all
of-
the confidence in him to
emphasis.
stand
I'm
up and
just
speak.
thinking-
And it may be that the board don't want to send them a letter. Maybe the board wants to allow the chairman to speak on our behalf, or we can send a letter and let the chairman speak. It's just it's up to the members of this board what we want to do, but at some point, somebody needs to come forward and say what the letter will contain, and let's move on.
Just speaking with two commissioners, I think just gives us a lot of teeth in the issue right now because it's so important. That's why I'm thinking.
I would say, Commissioners, if I may, first thing I want to be clear for the record, that what I wrote here isn't copied directly from the rules. This is a summary from FWC staff member that sent it to me. So I asked him to summarize what's going on. And I hear what you're saying. Basically, in the reopening, the devil is in the details. It's kind of a broad statement of how they're gonna open. I mean, what does the monitoring entail? I mean, what's the designated area that they're talking about? How big is that? Is it per acre you know? So that's where the problem is, and that's where we need to fight for clarification. On another matter, as the chairman was just talking about licenses, I just happened to email the city of Apalachicola and say, how many licenses did you guys issue? Because I think the deadline was the 30th, if I'm not mistaken. 300. So they gotta now turn around. Well, I don't know what they have to do. Let me step back. Do they have to refund all this money for these licenses? Or once the license is sold, the bay is closed, that's the person who bought the license's problem? I don't know that.
It went down a lot from 2,100 to 300, ain't it?
I know.
Yeah.
But they, you know, the state full of junk, man. They full of junk. They steady hollering. Don't believe they're gonna retrain the people or give them some help. They spend $300 million on these water walls and laws. But they can't give these people a loaf of bread. What's the matter with them people? They closing the bay. They taking their livelihood. They gotta help them people. That's all I got to say.
This deadline of August 1st is a big pressure too. I think that we should have some relief on that. That's 3 weeks from now. This is a huge decision to have to push in 3 weeks.
Well, it actually goes to the commission before then.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
It's odd that Commissioner Bolt, what they're saying, they meet for the first time to discuss this on the 22nd and 23rd, and then a week and a half after that, the draft rule takes effect. And then they're saying when they come back in September, or whatever, right there, that if for some reason the commission doesn't approve it, then they stop it.
You know
So
what?
it's just that timing, you're right, it's terrible.
You know what was all? We had to get it off the street. They ain't tell us. The state didn't tell us.
I got one more thing I want to bring to the board's attention. You may not be aware of this. FWC is one of the few agencies in the state of Florida that don't answer to the legislature. In other words, your senator and your House representative has no influence on decisions made by FWC. The only way they can affect their decisions and bring them in check if they want to is through their budgetary process. No one is above FWC. You understand that? They have their own constitutional authority. They're not, the senator can't call and make them do nothing, and the House representative, our representative can't call and make them do nothing. They have absolute constitutional authority.
That governor can tell them to do something.
He can't. He can affect their funding and make them come into whatever he wants them to do. But other than that, he has no authority over FWC, and neither does the state legislature, Senate or House.
I think he appoints the board members, and that's it.
That's
Once
about
they're
it.
appointed. Unless their term comes up for renewal.
That's right.
Well,
That's exactly right.
Like a judge.
Well, what we gonna do?
I want to pledge the board. I want to put in a letter, people need to get some help. Write them and tell them what y'all asked y'all for.
We're gonna add a letter. We need to try to find out what the metrics are gonna be for a possible reopening before the 5-year period expires. And who, it says FWC monitoring, how will the public be aware of when the monitoring is or what's going on? You know what I mean? Not just kind of be vague and us waiting to hear and they never hear, because as Commissioner Parrish just said, they don't really answer to anybody. So is there any way they can be answerable so we can at least be made aware that they've checked last month, they're gonna check again next month, you know what I mean?
Well,
Some
let
kind of-
Michael get the information we
monitoring.
need, and we can vote on it at the next meeting before, right?
Huh?
Let him get all the information, what they're gonna do, how they're
We
gonna
ain't
do
got
it.
that much time.
You don't have that
This
time.
letter needs to go in.
Yeah, this letter need to go in.
Yeah, I mean, talking about, we got to get it in, but what we're gonna vote on, what we're gonna put on it.
But
That's what we're doing right now.
yeah, that's, basically, let me tell you all what I have so you can add to it. I basically have some kind of displacement funding or training. I think summarizes what the chairman is asking for. Alternate, Commissioner Parrish is asking for alternate rule, rather than 5 years, when you check in 2 years, if you see there's enough oysters there, maybe you can have a short work week and start off that way, rather than waiting for the full 5 years.
There
I'm
you
gonna
go.
have that in the letter. Monitoring specifics, that's what you're asking for? You wanna know the details. What do you mean by your monitoring? What is the size, how much, well, they kinda say it's 300 bags, but, kinda narrow down those specifics.
But there's also 300 bags and 50% of the harvestable area of the bay.
That's the
Or,
specifics you're looking for.
Significant portion.
Okay,
Are they talking about 40%? They're talking about 80%? I mean, we just need to know.
yes.
And I think it's important that we ask them to keep us in communication all through this process. We don't want to go chasing for information.
Okay.
We want automatic replies. Perhaps we ought to say what are we talking, 2 months or so, give us a progress report, or every quarter?
Probably at least every quarter.
Every quarter,
We can ask.
okay.
It'd take.
And we
at least
shouldn't have to
10
ask.
months.
After we state this, we want it automatically sent to us so we don't go chasing for the information and get surprised.
It'd take at
Commissioner
least
said it
10 months to
tongue in
see
cheek.
anything out there.
Yeah, I'm with closing it, but these people gonna need some help. They gonna need some help.
They need some help, like Smokey said, it's gonna be a hard thing.
Like pulling teeth.
They made that lawyer rich who lost the water wars. He made $300 or $400 million, and they gonna worry about give somebody a food stamp and a check.
And with regard to the work displacement that these folks are gonna face soon, I think we really should put in italicized that we're looking for an alternative funding for displaced workers in that letter. And also, I feel that it should be carbon copies sent to Representative Schoaf. We'll be talking to him about this infrastructure money that relative to these 17,000 acres that they just purchased. You see?
They can partner with Career, so they got all them jobs.
Yep.
Send them over there. I mean, you know, they already got the set up for people to go to work. You just don't put them out there on the street. So,
Mike, I'd like to see the CC, our senator and our House of Representatives, Mumford and Show.
And so basically, I mean, here's a motion I'm hearing, the letter with all the information you put there, and to make sure the chairman is on the agenda to speak to the board directly. That's the motion I'm hearing?
That's
all right, cool.
basically, we got another disaster added to the two we got.
Yes.
Hurricane season. COVID, and now this is another disaster.
Good point.
So that's all it is.
It sure is.
Is that what y'all gonna put in the letter, what we got?
I will, I sure will, that's a very good point.
Okay. I'll make a motion for you to send a letter.
Yeah. I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Master.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Burt. Any more discussion?
You're gonna use the word disaster in some of your language in the
Yes,
letter,
sir.
correct? Good.
Sure will. I think that's very well said.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimously.
All right, where were we? All right, okay. Item 3, attached to the agenda packet is a SHIP report that includes a request to award 8 contracts to purchase mobile homes to Ironwood Homes of Perry for the Hurricane Housing Recovery Program clients. There are 4 septic tanks that will be replaced at an additional cost. The HHRP home repair projects are moving slowly due to COVID-19. Last Monday, Governor DeSantis vetoed the 2021 fiscal year appropriation for the SHIP program. After the 2019-2020 funds are expended, and if there isn't a reversal on the 2020 to 2021 funding, there'll be no down payment assistance program. There'll be no emergency repair program, and there'll be no full rehab program. There just won't be funding for those. So know that what's in the system is what's going to be dealt with, and that's it. It ends right there. So what I'm asking the board to do is award the 8 contracts for replacement mobile homes for the HHRP program to Ironwood's Home of Perry.
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Master, second by Commissioner Parrish. Any discussion? How long would it be, how long they say it's taking to get them ready?
With
bill them?
Anticipating, yeah, to bill them, I would say maybe 30, 60 days, the same way CDBG. They'll sign contracts tomorrow, and then the Ironwood will start right away. And Ironwood is the same company that's working with CDBG also.
Okay. All ready to vote? Any more discussion?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Michaels, is this going to any way to delay the people that are still awaiting CDBG homes?
No.
For the fire?
No, that order should be already in, and Deborah has one more thing for you guys to approve, so no.
Okay.
Ironwood, they
Thank
seem
you,
they got a
Mr.
factory somewhere, they're pumping them
Okay.
out.
All right.
These the one we talking about, they were with the storm, that's 18, 19, 20, 18, right?
Yep.
Right time. Okay, any more questions? Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, that passed unanimously.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
While we're on this subject, I'd like to make a motion that we send the governor a letter letting him know the detrimental effects of not funding this SHIP program.
Yeah.
Whether that'll help us or not, I don't know, but I want him to know how I feel, and I'm sure the board does too, because there's a lot of people that were using the down payment assistance and emergency repairs. They're still working on stuff from Hurricane Michael, but we run out of money in the SHIP program, and there's still needs, Michael, if you understand what I'm saying.
Oh, yes, sir.
And I'd like to send a letter to the governor asking him to reconsider or try to find a way to fund this.
I'll second that.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Burt. Discussion. Maybe, can you amend it to see, can you get some more of these small counties to go in with us? CC?
I'll ask.
Cause they, you know, he cut out all the counties.
Well, I think the best way to do that is have Michael contact some of these other counties, Gulf, some of Liberty, and have some of them tell them what we're doing and, you know, suggest that they do the same.
Yeah, they do
so
it.
that we're all together.
I will. Show them
You could reach out to some of our neighboring counties, probably Wakulla too, I mean.
Wakulla, especially up there like Bristol.
Yeah.
Bristol.
Mike could reach out to some of their county administrators and all and see if they, tell them what we're doing about sending a letter and see if they want to join us in this effort.
Okay.
That's a good idea, Commissioner Parrish. You come up and you hit it at the park on that.
Well, I mean, people ain't gonna understand when they apply to shit and there ain't no money.
I know it. They gonna come say the county commission and cut it off.
We're doing what we can do right now.
That's right, that's right.
That's what they do. They put it all on us. Come down here. Y'all ready? Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That pass unanimous.
Item 7, Commissioners, on page 7, the Appalachian Regional Planning Council is seeking funding from the Department of Economic Opportunity through the Community Planning Technical Assistance Grant for 2021 to conduct workshops on community planning activities and create a community planning toolkit. ARPC would like a letter of support for this grant proposal. Your support will play a major role in securing funding for this project. There is no.
So moved.
Second.
County has
Motion on
no,
the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Jones.
no obligation by the county funding wise.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That pass unanimous.
Mr. Pierce, your restore coordinator received a request from Nature Conservancy and the Water Management District. They're working on a planning study jointly. The deadline for the letter proposal was towards the end of June, so Mr. Pierce signed the letter. There's no obligation from the county either on this, with this letter of support. So I would like you guys just to ratify Mr. Pierce's signature for the record.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Massey. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That pass unanimous.
Item 9, as a means of protecting the public, county staff, and the members of the Board of County Commissioners, the county has followed Governor DeSantis' extended Executive Order 2069, which allows local government bodies to utilize communication media technology, again, that's the fancy term, such as the use of telephonic and video conferencing during public meetings. Basically what we're doing now. This policy has worked well by allowing the public to participate during meetings via teleconference system and view the meetings as it's happening via live stream. For a number of reasons, especially with the recent rise in positive COVID cases here in the county and statewide, the board should consider a local CMT policy as other Florida counties are doing. If the board is interested, Attorney Schuler and I would present a draft CMT policy for your review and approval.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Jones. Any more discussion on that?
Yes, sir. I just think the public should be very well aware that this decision is not to shut out the public and shut down our front door. It's common sense based on good science and health, and it's the best decision to be made at this time for now. It has nothing to do with shutting down public discourse. Or, as a matter of fact, we spent $12,000 on new video equipment just to have a better view of our county commission.
And Commissioner, Attorney Schuler's very good resource. He's showed me a couple already. We could look at other counties, see what they're doing, and maybe add to what we're doing to allow the public have other avenues in which to participate in the meetings.
Yes, indeed.
And you're right. I'm with you, Commissioner Bolt. You know, this stuff for real. It's not no play game. It's not no game we playing. That stuff is out there, and it's a killer. It is a killer. It's not. Some people get over it. Well, some people they just done dead. They gone, ain't coming back. And this stuff ain't gone. And then you got, that's another situation I don't like. You ain't got your people in the higher authorities. All they got to do is put something in place, and this wouldn't be going on. Federal government, state, but they putting it, I'm not coming down to the local level. That don't make sense. They do what they got to do. If it wasn't political, they'll do it. If it wasn't a damn election year, they'll do it. Don't make sense.
Commissioner Bolt, to add to what you're saying, I believe if we looked at the numbers of public comment participation and the live stream since March, I think those numbers almost equal almost the entire year last year of the public, speaking. I mean, if you guys remember how many people were on the phones, people, it's been a lot. A lot of people use the live stream.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I know we miss seeing the folks here, but right now we have good science backing this up, and we just need to do this on a temporary basis for now.
Already moved. We got to move.
Do we have a motion?
Yes, there was a motion.
We did the motion. It's been seconded.
All in
Okay.
favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimously.
And we have ethics training. I contacted Attorney Dan Cox about the ethics training, and he said he was available in July. But because of the numbers, Commissioner, I'm going to reach back out to him, Commissioner, and say, let's see how his schedule is running for August and in September. I will say, Commissioner Pires contacted me yesterday, and I guess when he saw the item, he said, if I would ask Attorney Cox, is there any way to do the ethics training virtually and it still be counted? So I'm going to ask him about that too, because that in itself would save, it would allow maybe the city of Appalachia, city of Carabel, anybody else who wanted to participate, if we could do it in a virtual way without bringing everybody to this room.
Mike, I was thinking about that, and we could do it here and put it on a screen.
On the TV.
For us, and then the city could do it, and their board meeting for them, and you mentioned this, Sop Choppy wanted to come. We don't need all these people in this one building.
No.
But we could all remotely access it and watch it right here on the screen, and the two cities could do the same, and Sop Choppy could do the same, and Wakulla, whoever wants to get into the virtual, we could do it that way and not have a congregation of people here.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you would look at all of that and see, and if, these different municipalities and all, not only our two cities, but others could remotely get into it, and he could actually teach it from his house.
Yeah.
And put it out, and then we could all sit here and be part of it, and we'd all get our training, but not be congregated.
Yeah. What I'll do first is ask Attorney Schroeder to check and see if that's legal, and then I'll go to Attorney Cox and we'll talk about the specifics.
Under this current.
Usually they make you take a test if you do it online, but I'll have to check and see.
Yeah.
The difference between doing it live and doing it by like a webinar.
Yeah.
This is a little bit different.
This will be a little different. So
Under COVID-19, I mean.
That's what I'm saying, it's a little bit different.
So you're gonna check on that for us?
Yes, sir. And the other thing was P&Z, and Board of Adjustment report. So Commissioner, what I'd like to do, and I know we've tried this in the past and it wasn't successful, but nothing beats a failure but another trial. So to move your planning and zoning and Board of Adjustments items into a consent agenda-like format. So let's hit P&Z because they usually have a lot of categories. So what I would do is say, okay, Commissioners, here are all the items that are critical shoreline application. Is there anyone you have a question about? If not, we could, one motion will approve all of those. Same thing with final plat application, docs. We'll try to group them and you approve them by groups. Unless you have an issue with one of them, we can pull that from the agenda and discuss that one separately. So, I'd like to try that if there's no questions from the board or concerns or objections.
Mr. Chairman, there's always questions, right? The only way that I would go along with that is if this is presented to me a week before our meeting.
Yes.
So that I have time to review each one of these projects. I don't want it on Monday, meetings on Tuesday.
Okay.
That's not gonna work for me.
Fair enough.
Because some of these shoreline applications and all this, I may have a different opinion of staff.
Yes.
Because of my experience on P&Z and dealing with all this, I may have a different opinion of what even the staff recommends. and legitimately so. But if I don't get it day before the meeting, then how do you pull it out? You know, so we
No.
need to know all this information ahead of time.
Fair enough.
And then if I call you and say, we need to pull this out, or another commissioner calls you and has an issue with it,
Yeah.
so that it can be done in a timely fashion,
Yes.
and the people that are on the consent agenda, if something's been pulled out, they might wanna get on the phone or whatever, so that they can answer questions on a particular project. So that's something we need to consider, and I don't know when the P and Z meetings are and the Board of Adjustment meetings are, if it will give you the time to do that.
Yeah, well.
I don't know.
As you remember, Mark is now reviewing everything, but Amy has the same deadline set up, and then Mark reviews all applications. So yes, so I just have to get him on a schedule that will allow you guys to have it earlier. So you can confer with Mark if you have an issue. That's the whole point.
I kinda make my own decision.
Yeah, no, it's to confer, not, yeah, no, okay. And that, oh, I'm sorry.
That's the only thing about a consent agenda is if staff approves it, it goes through.
Yeah, I wanna see.
You know, and
I wanna see too.
I'm kinda stickler for reading stuff and using my experience in the P and Z and having the knowledge of the code, how the land development code and the comprehensive plan works together. So sometimes we have a difference of opinion. Not that I'm always right or wrong, but, you know, I pay close attention to these land use changes and anything that goes through P and Z or the Board of Adjustment. To make sure that we're doing the right thing for the county.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. So if we're getting it essentially a week ahead of time, we would need to, I'm going off what you've said now, about making sure people are aware and they can comment if there's something that's been pulled. We're gonna have to let you know the Monday before the Tuesday meeting that we want to pull something?
Here's what I would do. Basically, if I can get this worked out, it was just me, just a pitch to you guys, you know, you would have it. I still think we need to have all the people that have application or representative on the phone, standing by.
Okay.
So if something is not approved in the consent, and you guys, you pull it out right there when we get to it.
Okay.
So there's one, I see you say, well, like, application 2, I want that pull, I need to discuss that. We can approve all the others but 2. So we approve the others, and then we talk about 2. So that's what it's done. I will still have them on the phone.
But
Because
we would still get all the information. On every situation, on
Yes, sir.
every application.
Yes, sir.
So that we can review all the applications,
Yes,
the
sir.
pictures like we normally get and all that.
Just like normal. You won't approve every single one by one. If there's a group that you approve, and nobody has a problem with them, then we send it through. Save a few minutes, kinda. All right, and the last thing that's not in my report, I have, and I forwarded to you guys, I received the St. James Bay Lanark Village Fire Department review from the auditor, the expenditure review.
You read that?
So,
I read it all.
so I need you guys, if you have any questions, the CPA wants you guys to call him. So, and I know some of you have questions as to, okay, Michael, what's next? You need to call him and then let me know ahead of time so I can have this on my report at the next time. Where do we go from here with this? There's a lot of information in here. He also has, and I need you to look over, at the end of his summary on the 4th page, he has some items that he wants the board to incorporate into the, like check and balances. I don't know if it needs to go, Attorney Schuler, on the actual ordinance. It can be done by resolution. I need to know all that before the next meeting, so we can, because I think there's going to be questions, more questions, based on what you, yeah. I was trying to be
Chairman,
nice, so.
It's more than a few questions,
Yeah.
Mike. I read that thing from front to back. Every expenditure, it ain't good.
Not good at all.
And just changing the rules ain't gonna get it from me.
Okay.
There's a lot of unallowable expenses. If the other members of the board have read that report.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
That's not gonna get it from me. Them are taxpayer dollars that have been expended in the way they shouldn't have been expended. Somebody gotta be held accountable for that. That's not my money or your money. That's our money. And it's the people of this county's money that was spent to buy fruit trees.
Generator.
Or the fire department, buy fruit trees.
Generator.
I don't wanna get into all of it, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
it ain't a question about questionable expense. There ain't no question in my mind about the expense that was charged on that debit card. Something's gotta be done about it. Somebody's gotta be held accountable.
That's right.
Who is the fire chief representing we used to have a person over the Franklin County Firefighters
He's going-
Association.
The last time I watched, George, Pruitt was the chairman of I can't remember their name of
United Firefighters Association.
Thank you, sir. Because that's who we dealt with more when we came to the tower and the repeaters and stuff like that. He is the chairman of that board.
Is he still the chairman?
I don't know. I'll have to go verify that.
Now there's, if you look through that report, there's funds that were raised by fundraising, and then there's taxpayer dollars. And those two can be spent different ways, but when they're commingled, you don't know what's what. So out of that amount of money that was misspent, and I look at their fundraising, and they raised $3,800 or something that year. There's no way you can say all those expenses were spent out of the fundraising part of it and not taxpayer dollars. I mean, I saw, we could talk about this for hours, and I'm not gonna get into it publicly, but something needs to be done about that and not just make policies.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that we continue this report on the accounting services of the fire department there at Lanark Village, picking up and getting a full report right through to current times. This report that we have in front of us ends on June 30th, 2019. I think we should begin picking up the next fiscal year, July 1st, 2019, and carry it to current times, because we have to find out and get this thing reconciled.
Yeah.
So I'd like to make that motion, please.
So you want Ralph to go back and do another audit?
No, I want him to pick up from where he just finished and continue right up for the next 9 months to where we are now.
Basically, it's a yes to your question.
This current new fiscal year.
If this report ended June of 19?
Of 2019.
Yep.
And we're in July of 2020. That's a whole nother year.
Yes, that's right.
So the answer to your question is yes. What he's asking for is an additional
I want to
review.
continue it and
And
finish
in the
it.
meantime, we're gonna come up with some policies and procedures
Yes.
to prevent this
That's
from
right.
happening.
Again, yes, sir.
And they're outlined in this report, those policies
You
and
know,
procedures.
it just really, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, it really aggravates me that these taxpayer dollars are being misused.
Sure.
So I'm gonna use that word.
What we got?
And I don't,
What, this man still working right?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
no.
Still using
Well,
cars.
there was one fire chief who's gone now that had all these improprieties that have been found in this report. And now there's a new fire chief there now, and we don't have any idea what that money's being spent for.
But you're gonna have you're gonna have 9 more months checked?
Beginning.
A year.
Retroactively.
Okay. Gonna probably scare you.
well,
I know.
just be scared, but that's, if it's like this year, that's $70,000
I know
being
it.
used to buy fire
I've been
equipment,
talking to Michael
fire
quite regular.
suppression equipment, a new fire truck, and things directly related to volunteer firefighters.
That's right.
Bro, can they,
And these are taxpayer dollars that's coming out of their pockets and paying this fire assessment and everything that is just being,
That's right.
well, can we suspend the card or get somebody else to card or
it's all volunteer. I don't know if anybody over there wants to take the responsibility.
I mean, this a volunteer, but you can bring a volunteer down, can't you?
Yeah, but who we gonna replace them with? They won't have no service over there, that's what I'm saying. And some of
we
this,
can't-
the community, this community that has a volunteer fire department, and they got a board and all too, that's in that report, needs to do a better job of making sure these funds are not misused. And it's being spent on equipment and the protection and everything that this volunteer fire department is supposed to be providing to that community.
Commissioner Bolt, if you don't mind, would you allow me to get a proposal from the firm, CPA firm, and present that to you the next meeting? And then you approve it based on the proposal and the cost to do it?
Yes, sir.
If you don't mind. So
Sure.
if we could, if the board doesn't mind, just, I don't need a motion to seek a proposal. Let me just go ahead and get a proposal, then you can make the motion at that time, because I want to make sure everybody's clear about the cost to find out what's going on.
You probably also want to put a time stipulation in there, because it did take so long to get this original report that now it's a year later.
Yeah.
You know, whereas originally, I think it was only 3 months afterward.
Yeah, and the problem was he had issues with
Yeah,
tracking down
and
a lot of the people, because
yeah.
like the commissioner said, the administration had changed at the fire department, so he had a long time tracking people down. Hopefully, it won't be as long, but yes, it's, so, I'm sorry, the clerk, look at she wants to say.
I just, I know a lot of people are watching this. I just want everyone to know, my office doesn't do anything with volunteer fire department bills.
No.
We don't monitor them, we don't pay them, it's strictly a volunteer department. So we're not, I don't want anybody to think the clerk's office slipped and didn't do something or catch something.
Yeah.
We don't have anything to do with their
Yeah, the only thing
expenses.
that we do is distribute the MSBU funds to the department.
Yes.
So once it goes there, that's all
Yeah,
we see.
as Commissioner Parrish said earlier, a few minutes ago, each fire department is supposed to have a board that actually controls how the money is spent, oversees the money being spent. So they're supposed to have a board in place that does that. That's who's responsible for that.
I've been talking to Michael quite regular, telling him what's going on.
Well,
Okay.
I got a question. Okay, Mr. Schuler, give me some advice on this. What can we do as a
Well, I have not completed the entire review of the report. I have looked at it, and I've also spoken with some of the commissioners about some of the questionable expenditures. And honestly, my initial opinion is it just needs to be referred to the state attorney's office for potential criminal investigation and prosecution if they think it needs to be prosecuted. That's my initial position, Mr. Chairman. Because there's a lot there that raises a lot of red flags.
Then he's fixing to do another check.
Well, pledge of the board, that's what we'll do then. You don't know it. Ain't no need to let them keep on spending, and we know. I guess that would help.
Well, you have this report that from a prosecutory standpoint, you're going to stand by until we get a bid on how much it's going to take to finish the report through fiscal year 2020.
Well,
is that?
They gonna be,
or do
they
you-
got that code.
What are you thinking?
I would say this, Commissioners, you're talking basically about two different administrations, if I'm correct, two different fire chiefs.
Yes, but one unit, I mean, one service, there may be two, we want to make sure we have a good standard in
This has
place.
been in there for a while. The other one's been out for a couple of years.
Yep.
Okay, so what we have in front of us now, Commissioner Massey, covers the current, okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Then we just, I'm with Attorney Schuler, Senator across the hall there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pledge of the board on it, it's time to do it.
Yeah.
And you can't do that.
You're gonna.
Well, Mr. Chairman, the motion would at most be to refer the report over to the state attorney's office without any recommendation whether they do or do not charge. It's not our responsibility
Right.
as a county commission to say whether it should or should not.
Right.
It is your responsibility to govern public funds, and you have an audit report which has created, a question that you would like for the state attorney to look at and for them to make the decision whether or not they think a crime has or has not been committed. But we don't recommend to them what they do one way or the other. That's entirely up to them.
No, that's their department, right? Okay.
Well, then I'll put into a motion that this report be, as it stands now that we see, be referred to the Attorney General's office for their opinion on
State
any
attorney.
future
State
actions.
attorney.
The State Attorney's
Yes,
office.
sir. Yes, sir. The Attorney General in Tallahassee, this is our local prosecuting state attorney. Commissioner.
Locally here, okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good, thank you.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Burke, second by Commissioner Jones. Any more discussion on that?
It's just sad that we have to do this.
Yeah, but
I know.
if we don't do it.
Oh, we have to. I agree.
We know better, they can come put one on us.
Before we vote, I just also would like us to encourage, if there's a state association of volunteer fire department folks, I'd like them to help us in some new standards of practice with these fire departments locally anyway.
Yeah. They know there wasn't no tree on fire.
Yeah.
Michael, Mr. Chairman, that's why I asked who was over the United Firefighters Association to see how
Yeah.
most of our volunteer fire departments operate.
Okay.
A lot of this was done with a debit card, and it seemed like the card was being passed around to anybody who needed it. And really and truly, if you're making a bona fide, you know, maybe as we're looking at policies and procedures that we talked about earlier, maybe there need to be 2 people that signed the check or whatever, without passing this debit card around and just, y'all ready to report, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but.
It can't, I don't think every volunteer fire department in the county operates that way.
Yeah,
But I don't know.
I'll
So you need to,
check with Chief Pruitt and see what he says, and we go from there.
yeah, just get an idea of how everybody else, what does everybody else do and how they function in it. I've just never seen nothing quite like this.
Yeah.
From the complaints of a young lady standing at the podium saying the man's riding through our neighborhood at 3 o'clock in the morning and the siren's blasting, but there ain't no fire. Till us having to pull our ambulance out of that fire station because they could not get out during when they received a call. I mean, there's just been a lot of issues with this particular fire department, and nobody's
Accountable.
nobody's watching over what's going on over there. Do they have a functioning board? Do they have regular meetings? Is anybody reviewing the financials? Is anybody questioning what's going on over there until we hire somebody to do an audit? So the whole volunteer fire department seems to be somewhat dysfunctional. That's all, and I'm done.
All right, y'all ready to vote? Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimous.
That's my report. I think I've been here long enough, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, just one
Go ahead.
consideration. We have a lot of, once again, dysfunctional issues regarding code compliance in my district. There are several different areas where the habitats are just very, very unhealthy, unsafe. I've had many, many constituents call me with regard to these issues. There's a variety of them. One home is burned to the point that it's no longer accessible, but children are continuing to play in this dangerous area. Another one was a yard full of junk that had to be cleaned up by county volunteers and local community volunteers in one particular street on Anabob. There's another one with a bunch of junk all throughout the yard, probably 100 foot of frontage on Oak Street that just simply is not cleaned up in any way at all, and again provides not only a bad view, but just an entire disruption of the neighborhood in that area. And then there's another area where our county issued a building permit with the faith that the owner of that property would actually build a building and a home, and it never happened. And that owner brought in a shed, essentially, and calls themselves camping out. I met with our building inspector, our county planning department, our county coordinator, and our attorney on these issues. I'd like to ask for our county coordinator to look into the options for a code compliance officer or some entity in our county that can begin looking at how we can enforce our ordinances and zoning laws that we have. I just would like to see a report for us to be considered. And the county coordinator can look at various counties of our size in Florida and what they are doing about compliance and give us a report, and I'd like to make that into a formal motion.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Burke.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any more discussion? So you asking for a code officer, the price of?
I'm asking for a report. I'm not sure what the entity would end up being. I want some enforceability of our codes and zoning issues here in this county. And I'd like to just see what options we have to be able to do that. It might be a code compliance officer. And it's just in time for budget planning as well, to look at that potential.
So you want a code enforcement?
A code enforcement officer or compliance officer, yes.
All right.
Or some entity that does the same thing.
All right, so, okay, I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Burt, second by Commissioner Jones. Let's see what, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I pass unanimous.
Good, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Any more? What that is? Where we at now?
That's up to me.
Okay, what about, next on the agenda will be Mr. Michael Schuler, County Attorney.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a couple of matters to enter into the public record. One is the letter for 8 and 10 Mile that I mentioned earlier when Buster was here. It's the letter dated June 29th, Deseret Ranches of North Florida, asking them to voluntarily take down their no trespassing signs on the 2 public roads, 8 Mile and 10 Mile. And then relative to the Dollar General litigation, I was required by statute to send certain statutorily required notices to the surrounding property owners. And this notice sent to Mr. Greg Yancey at the address he has on file with the property appraiser has been returned undelivered. So we'll just put those in the clerk's records or your records that the clerk maintains for you. But I have no other report or action items for the board. Do y'all have any questions for me?
Anybody got anything?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Attorney Schuler, I know it's not something we've talked about previously, the board. There's
Yes,
been
sir.
some discussion about COVID and everything going on and potential rising cases. And I don't think we have anything to take action on here today, but I would like to make a motion to get you to bring something back for us to consider about mask or no mask. I think it's to that point, enough of our citizens want to know what our stance is on it, and we need to decide what we're gonna do.
Yes, sir.
So if you could have something ready for us next meeting to consider.
Yes, sir.
That's my motion.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Massey. Any more discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That pass unanimous. Mr. Schuler through, okay. Next on the agenda be Commissioner comment. Any?
I just would like to say I'm going to have a meeting shortly, sometime soon, with Representative Schoaf relative to what type of infrastructure that the state would consider in exchange for that huge amount of land that they're buying. This supports your concern, Mr. Chairman, and certainly it's my concern in my district and on behalf of entirely Franklin County.
They need to pay for some of this. They taking all the tax.
Yeah.
And then they took that, now they closing the Oyster. They closed the prison over here. I mean, what they want?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They giving us $1 and they don't get a county nothing.
Yep.
I mean, they said they getting it to the county, but they're going to the school with that little bit of money.
Mm-hmm.
When they fund it.
Yeah, and when they fund it, so I want to say, we need to be getting the same price we would have got from them, what we would have got going through the tax.
That's right.
That's the way I see it, you know. You come in here and pick up for them to put their buddies out there to shoot something later on, or go fishing or something like that. Make them pay. They should be paying for that. They should be paying the same as we pay tax. If they can sit up there and make that kind of decision. All right.
Well, you're right. You know, that impending disaster of potentially shutting down our bay, we've been putting up with a washed out road for 30 years, and now they come along and buy 17,000 acres of prime property in our county, I really think it's time to start talking about infrastructure.
It is.
It is. Tell me, they should have been for the bridge across that, been to, wouldn't have been, all they would have done, wash the approaches out. Didn't spend all that money there.
Before you adjourn, sir, don't forget, an hour from now, we're right back in the room again for beach access and parking issues on Alligator Point and St. George Island.
I can't eat my possum in a
Workshop. Bring a to go plate.
All right, any more discussion? Meeting adjourned. Ooh, I hear the horn.
Is that all?
Huh? I can't eat my pizza.